Looks like Tristan got a bit Looks like Tristan got a bit cut off there. This is the Rock and Roll Breakfast Show. We've got an exciting show for you. Just go through the weather with you. It's highs of 12, lows of 6, light rain showers and a moderate breeze through the day. Today mostly cloudy for a time this morning with showers or longer spells of rain. Later this morning into the afternoon it will brighten up with spells of sunshine but also a few showers around. Mainly dry this evening and through until midnight with long clear spells but also the chance of the odd shower. Clear spells continuing after midnight but a greater risk of getting a few showers. Now if you're on your way to work tomorrow, it's going to be a fairly breezy day with long spells of sunshine but also the risk of a few showers through the day. We have Shaun Wallace in the studio. He is with us. Hello Shaun.
Hello Alex, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut to our opening song as we always do, which is Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio? And we'll be back soon.
The all-American half pound is 2 pure beef patties, lettuce, tomato. MWD. This is Rock and Roll Radio. Come on, let's rock and roll with the Ramones. This is Rock and Roll Radio. Stay tuned for more rock and roll.
If you know that theme tune, then you know our guest. So today we've got Shaun Wallace in the studio on the Rock and Roll Breakfast Show. How are you, Shaun?
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Jordan. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
You're loud and clear. We took Sean bowling at Hollywood Bowl Ruby last night. We're going to thank them for their hospitality. Hospitality. They were fantastic last night.
Absolutely. As
Yeah.
I say, we've got to big up to your wife, Sam, because she came top.
She beat us.
She
Yeah.
beat the Dark Destroyer.
She took the Dark Destroyer down. Today, Sean's going to go through his top 15 playlist. He's going to be pretty much leading the interview today. He's got his top 15 playlist. He's going to tell us what each song means. Go through a chapter of his life, and it's all in aid of promoting his autobiography, which is out now on Amazon.co.uk. It's called Chasing the Dream. Just search it, get it. I've got it in front of me.
Yeah, it's actually on Cranthorpe Milner, actually. That's the publishers.
Yeah, Cranthorpe Milner. And I love the smell of new books. Doesn't matter what book it is. Flick it and you have that smell. Jordan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
been a little groggy from last night.
Yeah. We were up a little later.
Yeah.
Sean was sensible and retired to his hotel quite early, and we stayed up watching the chase.
Yeah,
Watching the chase and eating Chinese food. So Sean, first tell us how writing the autobiography came about.
Well, it started in the aftermath of me losing the Eggheads Grand Final in 2008 because I came out of retirement to actually take part in the competition. It was my first quiz competition in 5 years. And I was sitting in my car listening to Steely Dan's greatest hits, and I was reflecting on the ups and downs of my life. So when I went home after the track had completed, I thought this would make a good story.
Oh wow!
right, okay.
Yeah, that was what we played about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't it? We were playing Steely Dan on here because of that. Because I just read that chapter and I thought that was interesting. You could just picture you in the car, head in your hands.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. Head in my hands, wondering, how did I manage to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? Because I was actually leading the final and just lost.
Are you quite a competitive person? I mean, you must be with what you
I
do.
am. As I say, I've been brought up to be sort of, competitive, really trying to do well for myself.
Yeah.
So that's part of my psyche, part of my sort of being, really.
So you talk about the losing the Eggheads final, but you've been in quite a lot of quiz shows, most famously The Chase.
Yeah.
Do you ever get that on the members of the public when they beat you? Do you feel that kind of same feeling where, oh God, I should have won that?
Yes, obviously, that's just me being a sort of professional chaser, a professional quizzer. But I'm the only chaser who'll go and see the contestants afterwards, win or lose. So I think it takes courage for any contestant to come on a quiz show to face a professional quizzer like myself or my fellow chasers. And they deserve praise and commiseration whether they win or lose.
Yeah, that's nice. We said last night we were watching, and although it's a facade and an act, but you can see your natural face movements. You'll smile when they get a question right. You can see that you're kind of.
Although you say it's a facade, when you see me there looking stern, that is me being dead serious because I'm there to win. I'm not there to muck about.
Yeah.
But afterwards, then we can have a laugh and a joke. But whilst I'm filming, whilst I'm competing against the opponents, then I'm there to win.
Wow. And just drawing on who you are to start the interview off and how you came to be. I know Sandra, your big sister's an idol of yours.
She certainly is.
And
as I say, she came over from Jamaica in the early '60s, and although I was the eldest sibling from the marriage of my mum and dad, she was my eldest sister, from my mum's side. And, she was my big hero. I looked up to her. She taught me how to be confident about myself, how to read. And when I told her I wanted to be a lawyer when I was 11 years old, she bought me my first law book. I was always supportive, and I love her dearly, to bits.
Oh, wow. And speaking of that, was it hard? Did you know you had a sister in Jamaica until she was 10?
Yeah. I mean, I've got another sister in America on my dad's side, so I knew of their existence. And, although they weren't part of the actual marriage, they are my blood relatives.
Yeah.
And, I love them dearly. My elder sister, Rose, she lives in New York, and, we're in regular contact, and I love her dearly. She's my sister.
Wow. So what we're going to do now is... I know the first song you've got queued up is one of my favourites, one of the show's favourites. We play quite a lot.
Exactly.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, as I say, I'm a 60s child, and I used to love listening to 60s music. I remember listening to the very first broadcast of Radio 1 by Tony Blackburn when he played Thousand and Rain, 30th September 1967. I remember it as though it was yesterday. So we used to love listening to sort of pop music. And, obviously the biggest bands at the time were like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And my first track, although it was a 70s song and a lesser-known song so far as the Rolling Stones is concerned, because they were one of my big idols, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards.
Yeah.
Actually, I share the same birthday as Charlie Watts, although we're not born on the same day. 2nd of June, we share the same birthday. But my favourite, you've got Jumping Jack Flash, you've got Brown Sugar, but my favourite track of the Rolling Stones, it's got to be Sympathy for the Devil.
My favourite too.
Brilliant.
We play this a lot on the
Absolutely
show,
brilliant.
so it is my favourite Stones song as well. This is Sympathy for the Devil by Rolling Stones. It's Sunday morning, forgive me. Oh, I forgot to pause the case music because it's 45 seconds. So I can leave it going. Right, look at my PDF.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year. Stole many a man's soul to faith. I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain. Made
Good morning. If you've just tuned in, we've got Shaun Wallace in the studio. We're just going through his book, which is Chasing the Dream. It's his autobiography. I will get over this speaking problem we seem to be having this morning. It's his autobiography. It's available on Amazon, and it's published by Cranthorpe Milner.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I got the mention in this time.
Thank you.
So, yeah, basically we were actually just talking about libraries. We just noticed our article got shared by a local councillor. I think it's quite poignant with you being so strong for education. I mean, what are your thoughts on local libraries? And
well, I think it's an absolute travesty that local libraries have been shut. I used to love going to libraries, and when I was preparing for Mastermind, I just used the library system all the time as opposed to internet. And wherever I can lend my support to try and keep libraries open, because it's an important area where people can actually access information and learn. It's a lovely a focal point where the community can actually meet, although, as I say, you're there essentially to actually read books. And I think it's essential that services like libraries are kept open, and I try and do what I can to actually support or to prevent the closure of these libraries.
Yeah, I thoroughly second that. I mean, if anyone was in or around Rubery yesterday, local residents, around 50 people actually turned up to Rubery Library to protest. Well, it was the county council call it a consultation, but whether there's rumours that it's going to be shut, whether that's any substance to that. So I think it's quite a good time to go on to your education, actually.
Yeah.
Speaking of libraries and stuff. Now you say these are your words. I came out with very average grades from the school before you enrolled into sixth form.
Yeah.
Now, being a younger generation, when reading your grades, it goes over my head. CSE grade 1. Talk us through your grades and.
Well. Back in the 70s, I mean, you had to do your O levels, and the sort of educational level below O levels were called CSEs. So far as educational standards of the 1970s, the 60s, and 70s, if you're working class or if you're black in particular, the elite or the educational establishment had a very low expectation of your life chances. And you were either doing CSEs or you ended up doing no exams at all, or they were sort of pushing you to actually do vocational jobs like working in factories, or sort of jobs like working as a builder or bricklayer and the like. So you couldn't have dreams or aspirations to become a lawyer, or a doctor, or an accountant. Now, I always wanted to be a lawyer ever since I was 11 years old, because I used to watch programmes. You guys are far too young to remember programmes like Crown Court or Pretricelli. And I used to watch those religiously, and I wanted to be like that because I was a talkative kid. But I knew what I wanted in life. So when I wrote my very first letter to the Bar Council when I was 12 years old, and I got that letter back, I was so excited, and they told me what I needed to attain those qualifications. And I kept that letter for about 6 years. And in the 2 years leading up to the O-level exams, you start at 15 and obviously 16, and you go to see a careers teacher. So I showed this to my careers teacher. I said, look, I wanted to be a lawyer. She said, you, Wallace, you're going to end up in prison at best. You'll probably end up working in a factory at worst. Now, you could actually listen to that advice and be sort of shattered and crushed, but I walked out of that meeting and I thought to myself, well, you're not going to be controlling my destiny. I'm in control of my future. So I always go into schools and colleges and sometimes even prisons, and the philosophy and message I say to young people is this: you are the future. You control your destiny. And I always talk about the ladder of opportunity, and I think it's important that people like myself are in the public eye. And I always use this phrase, and I mean it most sincerely and dearly, that with fame comes responsibility. And I think it's incumbent upon people like myself who are in a position to help others to use that ladder of opportunity to allow others to actually climb up it. But I don't want people to just climb up it. I want people to climb beyond me. Because if they climb beyond me, then my message must be an important message and a powerful message. And the one thing about fame and riches, I always say to a lot of people that no matter how wealthy you are, you could be the richest person in the world. Mortality is a great leveler because when you die, you can't take it with you. Even though people think that you're like an Egyptian pharaoh, you can actually bring all your riches into sort of with you into the afterlife. You can't. But the legacy I want to leave is the name of Shaun Wallace itself.
I think you're doing a good job.
I hope so. I hope so.
And we spoke about it last night actually when the surreal moment where I picked up Shaun Wallace from New Street Station. We'll talk about that later. So we spoke about it in the car, and you go to schools as well. You go into schools, and you give this, you basically send this message to the children as well, which I think is
because it's important.
Brilliant.
I always say to little children, I'm going to school next week, and I always say to them, listen, I could be talking to the next person who discovers cancer. I could be talking to the boy who finally lifts the World Cup for England. Ask yourself this particular question: why can't it be you? Because you are the future. I don't know what the future holds, but if you have that focus, dream, and ambition, you can be anything you like.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And you said you were disappointed with your results.
Yes, they weren't very good results when I was a kid growing up. From around 16 to around 19, my results were lamentable at best and pathetic at worst. I failed O-level English language 5 times. And I want people to realise that fact that, I wasn't born a champion. And I want people to realise that, and it took me a long time to realise that you could have all the knowledge in the world, but I didn't know how to be a student. There's a difference between being clever and there's a difference between being a student. And it took me a long time for the penny to drop. And obviously I needed help, support and guidance from people who had that experience in relation to knowing how to prepare exams, having the proper technique. It's all well and good having a photographic memory, but if you can't answer the questions under the pressure of time, all the knowledge in the world is going to get you nowhere.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think you got the pressure under time down now, haven't you? I've seen you close down chases with about 4 questions left and 2 seconds.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Basically, I won't give you his grades. If you want to know the grades, then I recommend you buy his book.
They were pathetic, by the way.
He got his rave reviews, and when they're written in his book, Chasing the Dream, I'll remind you again. Now, if you want to get your questions into Shaun Wallace, you can. Just text the studio 077 22 036 597. That we check every so often, but what I've got in front of me more is Facebook. So facebook.com/South Birmingham Radio, or you can tweet us at South Birmingham Radio. So, Shaun, let's go to your second song on your playlist. What have you got for us?
Okay, as I say, the biggest and best group of all time in the 60s and 70s. They're one of the groups whose music endures throughout the ages, will endure throughout time. In 300 years' time, 1,000 years' time, they will be talking about the Beatles. And as I say, I was a 60s child, and I could have chosen a whole host of Beatles tracks, ranging from Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, A Little Help from My Friends. And I remember when the Sgt. Pepper album came out in June 1967, because it was a day before my 7th birthday. I remember it was a Friday the 1st of June 1967. That's when they brought out the Beatles album, Sgt. Pepper's, and it was the biggest album of all time. It still is one of the biggest albums of all time, even though I understand it now that the Eagles have actually replaced it as the biggest album.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
But, everybody knows Sgt. Pepper in terms of its iconic album design and the wonderful tracks on there. But my favourite Beatles track of all time comes from the Abbey Road song, and it was a song written by George Harrison. Now, although Lennon and McCartney were the main songwriters, George Harrison, to some extent, towards the end of the Beatles' career, was beginning to write his own songs. Even Ringo had the Octopus's Garden. But my favourite track, it's got to be Here Comes the Sun. What a wonderful song.
No, brilliant.
Yes, brilliant. Does it represent a chapter in your life?
It just represents a happy time in terms of the 60s. The 60s was just a wonderful time to actually grow up. And
I would have loved to live.
I always say this, I'm glad the time I was born, the sex I was born, the colour I was born, and the area in which I grew up with. I am very, very blessed and very, very grateful for,
we can play the song in a second, but we are going to go through, talk about, actually was the next talking point was about the colour and where you were born.
Yeah.
Because I think it's quite key. This is Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. Shaun Wallace's choice. This is his number 14 top number 14 of his top 15 playlist.
You're listening to South Birmingham Radio.
I was just about to say exactly the same thing. It's funny, really, because it's a rock and roll breakfast show. So sometimes with guests, we have to be really careful asking what their music is. We had Idris Virgo from Celebrity Love Island not long ago, didn't we? And his music taste was not very rock and roll. But, it's their guest. They're the guests. So,
I know this is a rock and roll show, and I don't want to disappoint the listeners, but, my following 13 tracks are not rock and roll.
No, but they're brilliant.
But I've got an eclectic mix. I love rock and roll, love some rock and roll. I love jazz, I love hip-hop, I love soul, I love reggae. So, I do apologise in advance, listeners, but I think you will love my favourite tastes.
They are great tracks. We played them through the other night, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So going backwards a bit now, before your education and everything, and it's weird, really, because it's only 60 years ago. It's only 60 years ago that there were signs up outside houses. Signs up outside public buildings saying no blacks.
No blacks, no dogs, no Irish. Yep, absolutely.
60 years ago.
Yeah, we're celebrating a landmark anniversary with the Windrush generation, first landing in June 1948. Yeah. We came over here from the Caribbean to actually help rebuild the mother country after the devastating effects of the Second World War. We helped to regenerate and rebuild the whole country, and sadly, in relation to the way in which we were treated, it was terrible. It was very, very difficult for black people to actually get proper housing, and my parents, when they first came over in the late 50s, obviously they got married in 1960, but we were one of the fortunate few who managed to actually own our own house.
Yeah.
And we used to rent out our rooms to, our fellow West Indian brothers and sisters who didn't have nowhere to live or to stay. And, two people who looked after me, my Auntie Dor, who became my grandmother, and Miss Amy, who sadly passed away 3 years ago. They looked after me, and that was the way in which the collective Caribbean spirit, as I describe it in my book, bonded together in terms of trying to actually forge and build a life for ourselves in the 60s.
Speaking of which I found really quite heartwarming, that you had like a collective pot for people to take out of.
Yeah.
There's a name for it.
Yeah, it's called a partner.
A partner.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So basically,
and people still do it even to this day. Yeah.
This is fantastic. So a whole community of people will basically put a percentage of their earnings in every month.
Yeah.
And it becomes
you take turns in terms of collecting it. So that was a way in which you could save up. That's a way in which you can especially coming up to periods like Christmas, Easter, birthdays. It was a way in which people could actually save.
I think that's a brilliant idea. I don't understand why people don't have community pots anymore. No, I know you're saying you still do, but it's not as heard of anymore. That's for sure. We've got a couple of texts in, so I'll go through those. Someone said they liked the song. Another person has said, it's my mum, actually. I best read this one out. As Shaun gets older, does he find it harder to remember all the information he has learned for the quiz programmes? How does he keep his mind that alert?
No, I don't. The mind is a wonderful thing if you want to actually feed it with information. The more information you feed it with, the more you grow, the more your mind grows, the more you feel sort of invigorated in terms of actually feeding information into that wonderful computer that is your brain. So, no, the more I learn, the more I feel infused, the more I feel invigorated. I try to keep myself contemporary. You saw when I came in, I was actually looking at some of the books on your shelves. I thought, that's information which I'm going to remember. I'm not interested in stuff I already know, because I already know it.
Yeah.
I'm only interested in trying to develop things which I don't know. So when I spend about 2-3 hours a day looking at the quiz shows I tape, like Mastermind, University Challenge, I'm only interested in the questions I get wrong. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, just after the bowling, while we were all walking back,
I was just about to mention that.
Yeah, we all noticed it. Like Sam mentioned the Harry Potter questions.
Yes.
And instantly you went, I remember that one.
I certainly will, and that's going to be a quiz question I set, because I was trying to work out, although I've seen a couple of the Harry Potter films, which I think are really, really good myself, and I said, there are 7 films. She goes, no, there are 8. So that obviously put my timing out. But it's fantastic that she almost was, spot on in terms of how long it lasted. So I'm going to remember that now.
Yeah, her mind is phenomenal.
But it just goes to show, and that's what people say to me, your mind is phenomenal. My mind is not phenomenal more than anybody else's. And if you're interested in something, you're going to remember it. Yeah. So you noticed, in relation to her expertise in relation to Harry Potter, she could tell you how long it lasts in terms of the 8 films, the characters, etc., etc. Because you're interested in it.
Yeah,
if you're interested in something, you've got a passion for learning, you're going to remember it. Simple philosophy.
See if any listeners know it. Don't use Google. It's just a bit of fun. See if you can text into 07722 036597. The question is, if you watched all 8 Harry Potters, remember there's 8 because one's 2 parts, the films, it includes the credits, I think, so it's the running time on the back of the DVDs. All 8 Harry Potters back to back, how long would it take you to the nearest hour?
Well, she got it to the nearest minute. So she
knows her stuff. She really does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Apart from being a terrific bowler. Well done, Sam.
Sam beat the chaser last night. If you hadn't heard earlier, we had a fantastic time last night. We're going to do a website post later today with exclusive content on southbirmingham.radio.com. But we went to Hollywood Bowl. They set us up with a VIP lane.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And they brought us drinks over, and we didn't take advantage. We just had one round, and people were looking round, double taking whether that was Shaun Wallace, and then people were getting more confident and coming up for their pictures.
And I'll always stop to take pictures with people, and for the simple reason, it's my way of saying thank you to the public. Sometimes the people don't realise it's a greater honour for me than it is for them, because they don't realise if it wasn't for them watching it. the show wouldn't be successful.
Yeah.
I owe my fame, I owe my sort of success to the members of the public, and for that I'll be forever grateful.
Yeah, exactly. Now your next track is
Oh yeah,
one of my favourite.
Absolutely. As I say, my mix is eclectic. I'm a Caribbean. I grew up listening to reggae music. I used to rave to reggae music in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even now. And I could have chosen a whole host of tracks, but the greatest reggae artist of all time is the late, great Bob Marley. And again, you could have gone through a whole selection of his songs, but my favourite one has got to be Waiting in Vain.
Thank you very much. This is Waiting in Vain. Now remember, before I cut to the song, you can get your questions into Shaun Wallace 07722 036597. I will try and read out as many as possible. You can also facebook.com/RNR Breakfast. That's RNR. Or facebook.com/South Birmingham Radio. Go on both on the screens here. Get in touch. We'll try and read out your questions. Can't promise to get around to everybody. And remember, we've got a £500 competition coming up later in the show, where one of you lucky entrants are going to be picked to take on Shaun Wallace in a short quiz. I have to be careful what I say here. ITV will come down on me. A short quiz with Shaun Wallace. And if you win £500. If you don't, then it gets rolled over to another week. But yes, this is Waiting in Vain by Bob Marley.
From the very first time I placed my eyes on you, girl, my heart says follow through. But I know now that I'm way down on your line. But the waiting feel is fine. So don't treat me like a puppet on a string.
absolutely lovely.
It was. Waiting in Vain was actually the second UK single the Wailers spun off their mighty Exodus album as well. That was Bob Marley with Waiting in Vain. That was Bob Marley's version anyway, and we've got a few texts in. I am getting round to them, I promise you. Shaun, I'm just still at the beginning of the book, really. There's so much to this book, honestly. We wouldn't be able to fit it in 4 hours. You have to go and buy it. It's
definitely worth the value, and it's very money price.
It's not just an autobiography; it's a story. It's absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic. It's like you're reading a fictional story at times. But
it really did happen to me. I mean, as I say, that's why I wrote it myself. Because sometimes, if you're writing an autobiography, sometimes you can get a ghostwriter, but the ghostwriter's not lived the story you've lived.
Yeah.
And it took me 7 years to write, all in total. I originally wrote it in a year. And I was going to bring it out in 2009, but what prevented me from doing it was Slumdog Millionaire. And I thought to myself, no, bringing this same story out as an Oscar-winning film, I said my story's going to get buried. So I thought, you know what, guess what? Nah. So I looked at the book and I thought to myself, rewrite it, took it apart, rewrote it again, started again in 2010, and I go to Jamaica every Christmas because that's, apart from the fact that, I can get some sun on me back, but I can actually concentrate in terms of writing, to focus on my writing, and it was such a cathartic, and wonderful thing for me to do, to actually, tell my life story and to actually share it with the public.
But the reason I'm still at the start of the book, you eventually went on to work in large warehouse units with long radiators, and you had a stack of them fall on you.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, when you're a student, sometimes you've got to do summer jobs, and I remember that was in like 79, and that was one of the worst years I had, actually. The radiators fell on top of me and could have killed me, but it didn't.
The results.
Then later on, the A-level results came out, and it was a disaster. And I remember I was sitting in my room, shouting, "What a failure I've become," crying, and my brothers and sister walked in, and all my friends who had done their own A-level results had done very, very well. And I felt lonely in terms of everybody going off to, the next stage of their life in terms of going to university or polytechnics. And I wondered what was going to happen to me. And, I took stock in relation to what I was going to do. And I remember a very good friend of mine, Miguel Martinez, who was, he was a top student in our school. And, I had a chat with him in relation to what it took to become, a very good A-level student in terms of passing exams. And he gave me some wonderful tips. He said to me, "Sure, you're not far away. You just need to reconstruct and think like a student." As opposed, he goes, "You've got a wonderful memory, a wonderful mind, but there's a difference between knowing stuff and knowing how to express it under the pressure of time."
Yeah.
And, he gave me his history notes, and, I could see the difference when I read the standard, and I used that as a template. So, people like that, people like my teaching staff, one of my biggest heroes was a guy called Gordon Small, who was a black lawyer and a black teacher at my old school. And he was the first black lawyer I saw. And the one reason why he was so inspirational is because he was black and he was a lawyer. And I wanted to be like him. And he gave up his time, he gave up his efforts, to try and help students like myself reach their goals. And that's what really influenced me in life in terms of trying to be a person who gives back to try and help others. Because if people can be like that, I don't see why you, in a position of responsibility, can't help other people.
I think that's a good topic to pray on a little bit, actually, because if you're listening and you have an idol that you haven't thanked, and you think, you know what, it's time of thank them. Message into the studio, we'll get a thanks out to them.
Yeah.
One of mine was personally was my RE teacher at school, a guy called Paul Walker, and I still speak to him now. But he was just, I don't know what it was about him. He just connected with the students. He wasn't,
because he had an altruistic attitude to students. He cared about his students. He cared deeply, and he wanted you to succeed as a student. And you had teachers like that. I mean, as I say, teaching attitudes and philosophies have changed over the last 40 or so years. You've got more and more teachers who are altruistic, who do care. Obviously, they've got to crack the whip to make sure that you work hard and attain your goals educationally, so you can actually move on to the next stage of your life. So I had another teacher called Mike Cooley, who was my history teacher as well. Miss Watts, who was the head of sixth form. I could go through a whole list of student, teachers who were there, who picked me up off the floor when I thought that my future was behind me, and they basically said to me, "No, Shaun, your future's in front of you. Keep on going." And sometimes, the key to sort of life. Sometimes you do learn from failure. You do learn from setbacks. And it's important to realise that setbacks themselves do not mean the end of your journey.
Yeah, because you were quite hard on yourself when you were younger. I mean,
justifiably so. I mean, people look back and think you're too harsh. Well, I talk about when I was a little kid, I was like a version of Muhammad Ali. I am the greatest. I want to be a lawyer. Well, if you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk.
Yeah.
So if you're not walking the walk, or you're stumbling on the path and you fall over, then you've got to be harsh on yourself, because you've said this, people expect that.
Yeah.
So you've got to deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just an example of how. To me, it seemed like you're hard on yourself, but you say it's justifiably so, and it's your life. But it was like all I wanted to do is hide my face from the whole world, because in my mind, all the world would see was just another failure.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
Heart wrenching to read.
Yeah, but that's exactly how I felt, and sometimes you've got to sort of think and reflect in relation to the fact that, well, if you dwell on that for the rest of your life, then that's what you're going to become. And I needed to realise, well, how am I going to change it? And sometimes the change has got to come within. But it's always important to realise that if you've got a support network structure who's there to support you, and that's why I come to my big sister, because she was there, helping me to sort of dust myself down, pick myself up. The teaching staff, my friends, who basically said, "Look, Shaun, listen, okay, you've had a knockback, but guess what?
Yeah, you
can still do it."
Still do it. Yeah, we've had a text in, slightly off topic, more popular culture now, but had a text in from Richard in Rubery. Would Shaun ever do I'm a Celebrity like the governess is doing this year? And does he think she will do well? Anything she's
I think she can win.
Scared of?
I wouldn't do shows like that for the simple reason I am a practicing barrister, and although I'm in a public eye, at the end of the day, and people don't believe this, I'm a barrister first who's fortunate enough to be on TV, not the other way around.
Yeah,
yes, you said this
because I'm grateful for and privileged to be on TV, but it could go tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't take. I'm only as good as the last question I answered correctly. No better than that. Yeah. And if ITV pull the plug, and let's hope that they don't, then I'm a barrister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, your next song, which I hadn't ever listened to before. The other night.
I love jazz. It's one of the most wonderful, expressive forms of music you can actually think about. I actually wanted to be a drummer as well.
Wow.
You noticed me sort of,
sort
of tapping in rhythm, and if I could have been anything apart from being a footballer, I'd have loved to have been a sort of jazz drummer. And again, there's a whole host of jazz greats I could have listened to, from Charlie Parker to John Coltrane, the Crusaders, George Howard, you name it. But the person I used to listen to all the time as a kid growing up, and especially in my late teens, 20s, 30s, was Grover Washington Jr. And it was a sad, sad moment when he passed away in 1999. But again, his music lives on. And one of my favourite tracks is a song called "Let It Flow." And hopefully, listeners, you'll sort of get the feel of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You'll have pleased our sponsors, by the way, because Bache Science is sponsoring the competition later. I know Jeff Bache is a keen drummer, so he'll be listening to that. And
Jeff, you can give me some drumming lessons, actually.
Yeah, there we go. This is George Washington Jr. with...
Grover.
Yeah, sorry.
Grover.
George Washington. I don't know where that came from.
Was he a president?
I think Washington.
Yeah.
With George Washington with his famous jazz track. Now, this is Grover Washington Jr. with Let It Flow. We're going to play a couple of tracks, give Shaun a break, and then we'll be back to you with more. This is Grover Washington. Don't forget to get your texts into 07722036597. Still got a couple more to read. I have got them in front of me, don't you not worry. Facebook.com/RR Breakfast, Facebook.com/South Birmingham Radio. You can get Shaun Wallace's autobiography now on Amazon.co.uk. The publishers are called Craddock Milner, and honestly, the Amazon reviews are justifiable enough in the expense. It's a fantastic book. This is Let It Flow. Yeah, we played it the other night. Yeah, I recognised it when I put it on, but I didn't think I knew. Yeah.
24 hours a day. This is South Birmingham Radio.
Here's the latest news. South Birmingham with me, Tristan Harris. Today marks 100 years since Armistice Day, when the guns fell silent and the fighting stopped to bring an end to the First World War. There'll be services and parades taking place across Birmingham, the rest of the country and other parts of the world. An appeal has been launched to find a suspect after a man was stabbed 3 times on a bus in Edgbaston. Police want to speak to Gerard Dugan following the incident, which happened at 4 p.m. on Thursday. The victim, who was 34, was on his way home from work on the X8 bus on the Hagley Road when the attack happened outside Morrison's. The victim was stabbed 3 times in the arm with a small unknown weapon. Fortunately, he was not seriously injured. Dugan, who is 38, has links to Birmingham, Sutton Coldfield and Walsall. Anyone who sees him should not approach him, but should call 999 straight away. To see a picture of Dugan, visit the news section of our South Birmingham Radio website. And around 50 people turned out in Rubery yesterday to protest against proposals which could see the closure of the village's library. Worcestershire County Council has launched a 90-day consultation on the future of its library service, and it's believed that Rubery and Cats Hill libraries are among those which could face the chop. A petition launched by the area's county councillor Peter MacDonald is available at several places in the village, including the Co-op, Rubery Social Club, Polly Put the Kettle On and Robinson's Opticians. Councillor MacDonald said in a speech that Rubery Library was a cornerstone for the community and a focal point for the village. That was your news for South Birmingham.
Now, if you haven't listened to the Rock and Roll Breakfast Show before, we're going to go a couple of new listeners. 9 o'clock weather news, we have a bit of fun, put a weather-related song in the background instead of the normal bed. So today's Crowded House with Weather With You. Okay, so weather today locally is highs of 12, lows of 6. The outlook for today is mostly cloudy for a time this morning, with showers or longer spells of rain. Later this morning into the afternoon it will brighten up with spells of sunshine, but also a few showers around. Tonight it's going to be mainly dry, the odd chance of the odd shower. And tomorrow, if you're on your way to work, it's going to be fairly breezy. A long spells of sunshine though, so that's nice for everybody. But also the risk of a few showers through the day. That was your weather. This is Crowded House Weather with you, and then we will be back with Shaun Wallace in the South Birmingham Radio studio. Enjoy.
Julius Caesar and the Roman Empire couldn't conquer the blue sky. Everywhere you go, always take the weather with you. Everywhere you go, always take the weather.
That was Crowded House with Always Take the Weather with You. Shaun, Shaun's in the studio. Shaun Wallace from The Chase, top barrister in the country. His life has he's done a lot in his life. And if you want to find out more, because we can't fit it all into a 4-hour show, then please do go out and buy the book Chasing the Dream by Cranthorpe Milner Book Production Company.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Well done. You'll get there, Alex. You'll get there.
At 12 o'clock, I'll be able to say that when I'm about to go off air. It's available on Amazon right now, amazon.co.uk. Just search Chasing the Dream. It's their top hit. Now, Shaun, let's talk about when you got called to the bar, because you say you're a lawyer first and foremost.
Always,
so let's have a chat about
So before that, obviously, I had to do my degree, and I did that at North London Polytechnic. And I always say your undergraduate years are the best years of your life. And the 3 years I spent doing my degree from 1980 to 1983 were the best 3 years of my life. I grew from a young adolescent into a man. And again, it was another stage in my life in terms of, trying to get to the ultimate goal of qualifying as a barrister. And I eventually got my degree. Then I joined the bar finals course in the September of 1983. And there was only one place you can actually do the bar course now, because now there's a number of places where it's proliferated in terms of doing the course, but you could only do it at in Holborn. And, I'm a member of the Inner Temple. I got called to the bar in November 1983. And when we did the exams, I remember that year, it was a very high failure rate, and I managed to actually pass first time. Most of my contemporaries I went to North London Polytechnic also passed, and it was a proud moment, the 11th of July 1984.
Yeah.
Then I went off to America, because I wanted to sort of take time out to sort of see my aunt. Came back, and I remember that day, the 27th of November 1984, so it was yesterday. It was the proudest moment of my life. My mum and dad were there, got called to the bar. I remember pinching my nose before they called my name out, and shook the hand of the bencher, and that was it. And I remember looking up after the celebrations with my fellow newly qualified barristers, all the illustrious lawyers of the past. I remember asking myself, what am I going to be doing in 10 years' time, 20 years' time? And it's going to be interesting. But I said, no matter where I'm going to be, the one thing I'm going to be is myself as a barrister. I'm not going to change to be something I'm not. I'm just going to be me as a barrister. And I remember looking around, everybody celebrating, and the one thing which really struck home to me was that, yes, Shaun, you managed to walk the walk after talking the talk after all those setbacks, but the reality was, all it had done was bring me to the start line of a different challenge. That's what all success does. And I remember saying that, I'm at the start line of a different challenge, and guess what? The gun's fired, and people have already gone off. So, the race is not for the race of life, or in terms of life or your professional career, is not for the swift, it's for the sure. So, everybody has their own path to get to where they want to get to, and it's not about getting there quickly, it's about getting there with their conviction and with sureness. So, starting off, it was very, very difficult to get pupillage, and let me just explain what pupillage is. It's like a training contract. Right. Where for the first 6 months you work under the guise of a pupil master who basically teaches you how to become a barrister. Then the next 6 months you're allowed to go into court. Now, when you first qualify, nobody's going to give you a murder brief straight off. Obviously, you've got to sort of take baby steps before you can actually take giant strides eventually. And I remember the barrister who was my pupil master, a man called Geoffrey Yearwood. He was just fantastic, another black lawyer, and he really had my best interests at heart. Taught me. I used to watch him, and for the first 6 months of my career, he never lost a trial, and it was just fantastic to actually see that. Now, as a young black barrister, it's very, very difficult. I'm not going to say this to be a fact, but there were very few black legal professionals when I was growing up, and it was very, very difficult to get into chambers. And I'm not saying that was because of my colour. I'm saying it's because of the fact that the bar in itself is a very elitist profession. And it was very, very difficult for me to actually find pupillage. And, I ended up in a sort of, black chambers where there were predominantly black lawyers. But these black lawyers were good, very good. You know, I had people like Jeffrey Yearwood, a man called Ika Peart, who became a QC.
Oh, wow.
You had people like Ignatius Fessel, who was a very, very good lawyer in his own right. So, these were the people who I looked up to. I remember when they did their first big trial when I was there, and, they all got not guilty verdicts. And, these are black pioneers who, okay, they weren't in the top chambers, but they were just as good as their white counterparts. Yeah. And you know what, guess what? It showed to me that you can survive, providing that you're good, providing that you take your profession seriously. And, there were people to actually look up to.
Talking about Jeffrey Yearwood, I was just reading that as you were talking then. It was actually your mum who recommended...
Yeah, because what happened... in the story, what happened, I wanted to have a party to celebrate, and I did have a party in the house, but she went off to Jamaica, and if she'd have found out the house party I had, she'd have throttled me. So anyway, when she came back, she asked me if I had a party, and I sort of denied it. Then she said to me, how am I getting on with my search for to become a barrister? So I said, it's very, very difficult. And she said, I know a barrister who lives down the road. I said,
you tell me now.
Well, you're telling me now. So she told me, she managed to find out his address, and he lived a stone's throw away from where I live. So, I put a letter under his door, and he told me to come round. It was a very informal chat, and got to meet his wife, Garcia, who, we're friends to this day.
Yeah.
And it's kismet, but she told me she was putting her twins to bed. So I said, when were your twins born? And guess when they were born? The 2nd of June.
Oh, wow.
No way.
If that's not a sign.
If that's not a sign, then, I don't know what it is. Sometimes, and I'll talk about the man upstairs, sometimes, he has this sort of guy, or she has this guiding influence, in wanting you to actually get to where you want to get to. And sometimes, kismet, fate, it just plays an important part. Because no matter how talented you are, sometimes you do need a bit of luck. And, sometimes I've been very, very fortunate to have the lucky breaks that I've had.
Is there anything you're striving for in your law career? You going for QC? Or?
Yeah, I mean, any person who enters whatever profession, you want to get to the top. And I'm no different. Of course, I want to become a QC, but I want to become a QC not because I'm on telly, because I'm a good lawyer. That's how you get it. And as I say, I'm only as good as the last closing speech. And that's why I take my profession seriously.
So we were talking about closing speeches last night. I know when I was on jury service, we had a guy in the court who was very obviously guilty of this crime. I won't say too much, but he was very, very obviously guilty. There was CCTV, there was witness statements, police statements. There was even a police officer as a witness on the stand. There was nothing more concrete than this man going away. He was set, and the jury went for a break on the first day, and obviously you can't go out the courts. And we're all sat in the room, and the judge asks you, don't find this man guilty or not guilty on your break. You don't talk about the trial. You sit and relax. The man's got a right to a fair trial. That's what the adjudication's for at the end. So, but it's natural human behaviour to you all sit there in silence looking at each other, and then one person just breaks the elephant in the room and says, "He's guilty," and the whole room, yeah, I think so. I think he's guilty. From what we've seen so far, I think he's guilty. And so unanimous during the trial that he was guilty. And then a couple of days later, it come to closing statements. The defence barrister, and before this, it was his lawyer who was doing all the talking. This first was still the barrister, really. And he come from the back bench and he put his arm on the jury stand, and I was the first juror, and he was just looking into my eyes as well. It's quite scary. And he says, "Do you really believe this woman?" And he was the way he elocuted with his hands, and he was just, this guy suddenly went from a barrister to a guy you've met down the pub and you've known for about 20 years, and we went back into the room and there was no new evidence submitted. It was nothing had really changed in the case, but 2 or 3 people then, oh no, there is reasonable doubt. Just from that closing statement, that's how much difference it can make.
It can make a difference, and if you've got a very, very good advocate who prepares his case well, they can make a difference. And the one thing barristers can't do is change the evidence which they're confronted with.
Yeah.
But you can use the power of speech, the power of eloquent argument to try and persuade a jury to see the case from your point of view.
And is there do you take on all cases that are presented to you?
No matter, yes, because we're governed by what's known as a cab rank rule. Just like taxis, when the case comes along, you've got to accept it.
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, I've had to represent somebody who was a National Front member.
Oh wow!
So everybody has their own inherent, because you've got to be dispassionate as a barrister.
Yeah, of course.
You can't sort of everybody has their own sort of inherent views in relation to what cases they'd be prepared to take and prepared not to take. But in essence, everybody has a right to a fair trial. And to be honest, if I was presented with a brief to represent Adolf Hitler, I would.
Wow. Yeah. Is there any? I suppose now, especially this far into your career, you're more professional about it and more separating work from home. But has there ever been a time where you've taken work home and felt the emotions of the case?
Of course, especially when you first start off. I remember I did my very first Old Bailey trial, and I was so sort of, convinced of my client's innocence, and I basically, and it really upset me when the jury convicted him, and it taught me a big lesson that, although you can have empathy with your client, you can't feel the emotion. You've got to be dispassionate, because at the end of the day, as long as you've done your very best, that's all you can do as a barrister.
Yeah. And I suppose this is a cliche question that lawyers get a lot, but have you ever
represented somebody who thought was innocent and vice versa? Yes, it's not for me to determine the guilt or innocence of a client. That's for the jury.
Yeah,
so,
of course, yeah.
Obviously you give the appropriate advice if you feel that your client is guilty because the evidence points to guilt, and whether or not that client accepts that advice is another matter altogether. If they don't accept the advice and you feel professionally embarrassed by the fact that they refuse to accept your advice, and obviously you're at liberty to withdraw. But I'm not there to determine the guilt or innocence.
Wow. It's all already this is all brilliant for me because I've always been interested in law, so I've probably preyed on this a bit too much. But what's your next track?
Well,
Shaun?
my next track, when I was a first-year law student, the very first time, at the end of my first year, I managed to go to America for the very first time, working on this scheme called Camp America. And it was the very first time I went abroad. I felt like I was going to a different world when I first stepped on a plane, and it was just a wonderful experience when I first touched down in America, because America seemed extremely large in comparison to London. It was the summertime, it was wonderful. And one of the groups who'd brought out an album at that particular time, although they were a well-known 60s group, they sort of morphed into a sort of wonderful sort of soft soul group, the Isley Brothers. And one of my favourite tracks is a song called I Once Had Your Love.
Yeah, so we're currently breaking into Shaun's top 10 now. This is his 10th top track?
Yeah, it is. It certainly is.
So keeping track, I'm keeping track.
Well done, mate.
This is the Isley Brothers with I Once Had Your Love. good. That was the Isley Brothers. That was Shaun's 10th top track.
Yeah, that was like the summer of 1981, and I was having a fantastic time working on a place called Camp Nelson on the outskirts of Boston.
Yeah.
Then I called my brother, or my brother called me, and he said, "Look, Shaun, your results have come from the first year," and I got 3 B's and a fail. Now, when you did your first year exams, they didn't actually count towards your degree, but you had to pass all the exams.
Yeah.
Now, if you failed 1, you can do a resit for 1. If you failed 2, you had to do all 4 again. So, you know, it wasn't too bad. And in the first year, I didn't pass contract first time. And the reason why I didn't pass contract is because I did it as an A-level subject. And I thought to myself, you know what? I know this so backward. I don't have to, prepare for contract.
Yeah.
And I failed it. And again, it taught me a big lesson. A, don't take subjects for granted. And B, although you were doing it at A-level, at degree level, it was a completely different kettle of fish.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So what happened, I had, at the end of the Camp America, you had 6 weeks travel, where you can travel around America before you had to catch the flight back to England in September. But I had to come back early because the exams were at the end of August.
Yeah.
So I had to pay for my own flight. I remember I went back to go and see my law lecturer, Judy Newton, and, she told me, the reasons why I didn't pass and things like that. And although I eventually did pass, it taught me a big lesson. I said to myself, right, Shaun, make sure you don't make that same mistake again. Don't take subjects for granted just because you've done them before in the past.
Yeah.
Doesn't automatically mean that you're going to pass them again. And what happened in the second year? Same thing. I did the law of tort. That was a subject I did at A-level, and I knew tort backwards. But when it came to passing that particular exam, I didn't pass. And again, and this time it was important because your second and third year counted towards your degree. And in 1983, they changed the law, they changed the rules in relation to entry to the bar, where you had to get in a minimum of a 2-2.
Yeah.
And although I eventually passed the tort, the grades I was on at that stage was a third-class honours, which would not have been enough.
Yeah.
So going into the final year, I had to get 5 2-2s in order to actually get, and I did. Although I remember when I was going into the final year, as I said to myself, look, you're not going to be a first-class honours degree student. It's important that you cross the line in relation to what will take you to the next challenge, i.e. that was the bar finals. And my own victory would have been getting the 2-2s, and I did. And it was very,
I
very
want to
important.
talk about the 2-2 as well, because I read on that as well. You had turned up to when everybody was getting the results, and it hit me straight away of how close your actual group was. That you were
Yeah, we were a very, very close-knit group, and I remember I was walking up to Ladbroke House because the faculty where I was just around the corner from Highbury Football Club, the old Arsenal stadium. Yeah. And I remember it was the 6th of July 1983, and I remember, oh God, have I got it? Have I done it? And I walked upstairs, and I was just about to walk upstairs, and I saw 2 students coming down and said, "Sure, well done." And I said, "What would you mean well done?" They said, "You've done it." I said, "Really?" And I didn't want to believe what they had to say to me.
Yeah.
So I walked upstairs, and once I saw my name on the list, it was just a great, great moment.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened when we got waiting for the results for the bar finals in 1984. Because there was only one place you could get the results at the Faculty of Law, and they used to post the results on the windows. So you can imagine there's about 800 students sort of piled, and I remember my examination number was 6810. Never forget it, because and I thought to myself, right, I'm just waiting for the rush. So I remember there was about 6 of us who went to North London Polytechnic who did the bar finals, and we all passed. But I didn't want to go to and I couldn't see my name, so I went there. And they said, "Look, Shaun, there you are. There's your name, 6810, Shaun." And I tell you, again, I remember that as if it was yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a very, very happy, proud moment. I remember when I came home and I told my brother, told my mum, and they were just over the moon that the oldest son had done it.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And you speak about networking in your book and how that kind of changed the way you felt about the whole career.
Yeah, because no matter how talented you are, you still need, contact networks. Now, as a barrister, you can't get work unless you're instructed by a solicitor. Now, when you first start out in the legal profession, obviously you're beholden to the senior clerk, who's like the agent who actually distributes the work. You're beholden to solicitors who actually decide whether or not you're instructed in cases. So, in essence, you've got to sort of prostrate yourself before them without actually losing your dignity, and that's very, very difficult. And I had this sort of rose-tinted approach to sort of the bar. I wanted to be like Rumpole of the Bailey. Okay, he wasn't the man who earned riches. But he was very good at his craft, and clients always wanted to be the person who was representing by him, and I wanted to be like that. And in the early years, I was just like my pupil master. Started off really well, started winning loads of cases. I went through the first year of my practice as a Crown Court barrister without losing a single trial. So it taught me that, A, I had what it took to become a barrister, and B, people instructed me because of the fact that I was good. But you still have to network. You still got to put yourself about. Yeah. And, it was very, very difficult for me to do that. And at the time, in order to support myself, I was working as a part-time lecturer at Hackney College. And the reason why I took that particular post is because, A, I needed money to support myself as a barrister, and B, it gave me the confidence to actually speak in front of strangers, really. Yeah. And more importantly, it was a way of me actually putting things back in terms of trying to help students who are prepared to give up their evenings. And I think it's very, very important as a professional that if you've got the time and the sort of altruistic attitude to do so, then you've got to help your fellow persons or fellow people. Yeah. So I worked 4 nights a week at Hackney College for 14 years, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Taught over about 3,000 students. That was important to me just as well as being a barrister. So I didn't really have time to network, and I thought to myself, well, okay, I should do it, but why should I do it? Being good as a barrister should be good enough. And sadly, that is a rose-tinted approach to any career, which ultimately led to my career sort of stalling and experiencing a gradual decline in the sort of mid-90s to the late 90s.
Yeah, that's the. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to your number 9 song, and then we're going to start touching upon your TV career and how that came about and your Mastermind championship. Oh yeah. Okay. You've got to tell the trophy story.
I certainly will. I'll tell the trophy story. Yeah, right. My next track, again, The Whispers, as I say, another sort of iconic 60s wonderful soul group. And again, this track here also came out in and around the time when I was sort of a sort of law student, going to nightclubs, sort of having a great time, raving, sort of enjoying myself. But sometimes when I sort of come back, listening to sort of the laid-back, wonderful, soulful grooves of this track. And this is another favourite track of mine called Lady.
By The Whispers. Here it is.
without you, girl, I'd be losing my mind. You're the answer to my prayers, and just like fresh air, you keep me alive. You cannot be spared. Don't you ever go nowhere. You see, I love you, lady. Really, really love you, girl. And no power, baby, keep us apart. You're engraved in my heart. Do you hear me, pretty lady? Do you hear me, baby? I want you to hear every word I say, yeah, girl. That means I love you, baby. And that means that I want you, baby. And that means that I'm gonna get you, baby. Well. Don't you know that I love you, girl? Your kiss make it drive me crazy. Yes, you do, girl. Kiss, sweet love. Do anything that you wanna do. But don't you ever go nowhere. Please, I don't want you to go nowhere, baby. You see,
A brighter mix of music, 24 hours a day. South Birmingham Radio.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line. I find it very, very easy to be true. I find myself alone when each day's through. Yes, I'll admit that I'm a fool for you. Because you're mine, I walk the line. As sure as night is dark and day is light, I keep you on my mind both day and night. And happiness I've known proves that it's right. Because you're mine, I walk the line. You've got a way to keep me on your side. You give me cause for love that I can't hide. For you I know I'd even try to turn the tide. Because you're mine, I walk the line. I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line.
And we're back in the studio with Shaun Wallace. We've also got our in-house photographer, Henriette Lang, here, taking pictures of us all. So, Shaun, we're going to go on to your TV career now. We've heard all about your law.
Yeah.
Let's first talk about Mastermind and how that came about.
Well, I think we should go back first, actually,
So you go
how I got into... Because apart from my love of football, I used to love quiz shows as a little kid. I was very fascinated by the fact that, people could go on quiz shows and answer questions under the pressure of lights, the studio audience, and, the whole pressure of the situation. And as a little kid, I remember I used to love watching programs like Mastermind. I remember I watched the very first one when it was first broadcast in September 1972. It was at 10:45. It was a graveyard slot, and they moved it to the sort of evening, and the show just took off. I mean, it used to have 20 million viewers. I used to love watching shows like University Challenge, programs like Bullseye, Winner Takes All. You name it, I used to love watching quiz shows. Sail of the Century. Remember Sail of the Century with Nicholas Parsons?
Yes.
You're far too young, everybody in this room. Am I that old?
No, of course not.
Am I that old?
You're only 20.
So I always wanted to do quiz shows, and obviously, what was more important to me in the sort of early 80s and 90s was to qualify as a barrister and to develop my career. So obviously, I didn't have time to actually apply for quiz shows, although I was going to apply for it in 1984. And my specialist subject then was going to be Minder. Do you remember Minder?
Yeah.
It's one of the few shows where I can actually remember all the dialogue. They could have asked me anything, I could answer. But, what was more important to me was my legal career, and I just didn't have the time. And I wanted to do Mastermind. And when they brought it off in 1997, I was gutted. Yeah. And I thought my chance had gone. So when they brought it back in 2002, I mean, in the interim, I'd done other shows like The Weakest Link. I did a show called Greed, which was my breakthrough, where we won £250,000 between us. But the show I always wanted to do was Mastermind. And so when they brought it back, my career was going through a bit of a doldrums at the point, because 2 years previously I'd broken my ankle playing football. I wasn't getting much work. I couldn't afford to actually pay the Chamber's rent. 2 years before that, I'd relocated to Birmingham to try and develop my practice, and I was actually driving up every single day up the sort of M1, M6, but it was getting too much, and I just wasn't interested. And I thought to myself, I don't want to do law anymore. I want to do something completely different. And at that time, believe it or not, I had dreadlocks.
Oh, right, yeah. You'd have to send a picture into the station.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see it on YouTube when you see me in Greed. I wanted to do something completely different. I thought to myself, what can I do which should, why don't you do TV quiz shows? You've got the opportunity to do that now, so that's what I did. And rock. Yeah, so
Elvis has left the building.
Yeah, I wanted to. Yeah, he has. So I wanted to do that. My breakthrough was a show called Greed. Then, but in 2003, did Mastermind. My original subjects were Kings and Queens of England, world history since 1945, and FA Cup finals. Now, when I spoke to the then producer John Kelly, he said I couldn't do Kings and Queens of England because somebody had already done it the year before. So I was going to pull out. So he said, look, I'll give you 2 hours to make a decision what you wanted to do. So I'm sitting there thinking, what is the one subject they can't beat me? Ding! Football.
Always see you smile when a football question comes up on the chase.
So I rang him back and I said to him, look, can I do football subjects? Because obviously football's the number one sport in the world. Yeah. And it's the number one sport, and nobody's ever really done a football orientated subject. So he goes, well, what subject would you like to do, Shaun? So I said, well, can I do FA Cup finals? No, can I do European Cup finals since 1970? And the reason I took 1970 as a seminal year is because that was the year that Chelsea won the FA Cup for the first time. So he goes, what will you do in the semi-final? So I said, well, England were playing in Euro 2004 in Portugal. I used to love watching the England matches as a kid. Yeah. Can I do all of England's qualifying matches in the European Championships from 1963 to 2003? He said, all right, well, what happens if you get to the final? I said, well, could I do FA Cup finals? Because I only live a stone's throw away from Wembley, and FA Cup finals for me was like an institution when on FA Cup finals day, because the sort of vibrancy around Wembley Stadium, all the fans, you sort of go and watch the sort of build up, decide whether or not you're going to watch ITV's commentary with Byron Moore or BBC's commentary with David Coleman or John Motsman. So he said, okay, you can do it. Once he said I could do that, my chances of winning Mastermind went up by 20%. because as I said to you before, if you're interested in something, you're going to remember it. But the way in which I prepared to do Mastermind, I didn't think like a question contestant. I thought like a question setter. I thought, what are the questions they could ask me that they're not going to catch me out on? And the best question, it happened to me loads of times. I got loads of questions correct, but the best question, which I knew they were going to ask me, they always used to ask the question, who was the first England footballer to be sent off in an international? And that was Alan Mallory. It happened to be on the 5th of June 1968 in the European semi-final, Championship semi-final against Yugoslavia. And I said to myself, I bet you they're going to ask me who he fouled. And they did.
Oh, no.
And they did. They certainly did. And after I won the Times, do you know Giles Smith in the Times? He wrote a wonderful article about me, saying that people were saying that football's too common to be a subject to Mastermind, but it requires the same intellectual rigour as if you were asking questions on sort of ancient history or of science or philosophy. Yeah. And the best question they were totally flummoxed by how I knew it was. There was a goal scored by Lee Dixon. He only scored 1 goal in 22 internationals for England. I remember watching this game. It was against the Republic of Ireland. Because I remember it was so strange. He shot, and it came off the knee of Steve Staunton.
Right, okay.
And it went into the back of the net. And they asked me the question, when Lee Dixon scored his only international goal, it deflected off which Republic of Ireland player?
Bang, straight in.
Straight in.
Nice.
And they were they just could not believe it. But I used to go to the library. And that's why the library played a wonderful, important role in my victory in Mastermind, because I'd go to the British Library in Colindale and I'd get out all the sort of cuttings of the newspapers and I'd sort of underline sort of things. And I remember there was this lady called Valerie Lowe, because I was so useless when it came to sort of going through the sort of microfiche film feeding into, and she used to help me all the time, and I told her I was doing Mastermind. And one of the first things I did when I won was I bought her a big bouquet of flowers. Yeah. And I went in and I said to you, Valerie, thank you.
Oh, lovely.
Because you played a role just like anybody else. Thank you so much. And
about Mastermind, while we're on that, just say, sorry to cut in, but you had to retake the ending, didn't you?
Yeah. At the time, it was the closest victory. I was the first black person to apply for the show.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Obviously I ended up winning it. And I didn't tell a soul. Nobody knew, not even my closest family members knew that I did the grand final. And the reason why I didn't want to tell them was 2 reasons. Firstly, I didn't want the added pressure of having my family and friends and for me to be worrying about them, worrying about me, how I was going to do. And the second reason I didn't tell them is that after I'd won, it was the closest victory at the time, and I wanted them to go through the same agonies I went through. Yeah. I wanted them to have the same gut-wrenching sort of worry. When they said, the Mastermind champion is Shaun Wallace, and I just sat there. Yeah, tears of joy were running down my cheeks, because what I was thinking about was all the hardships I went through, all the difficulties, how it was going to change my life, or my family going to think. I sat there for 2 minutes, and the producers were a bit worried about me, because they thought to myself, "Is he all right?" Yeah. And they came up to me and said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm cool." So they had to redo the whole ending. And Michael Gray, who gave me the trophy, he actually mentioned the fact that he had a little tear in my eye. Yes, I did have a tear in my eye. Yeah. And when I lifted the trophy, the first person I thought of was Bobby Moore. Bobby Moore was one of my biggest heroes. And I felt like Bobby Moore lifting the World Cup. And, I remember going around to, lifting it to everybody around and, holding the trophy tight because it was mine. And it was a proud moment. And I didn't tell anybody for 6 months because it gave me a chance to sort of think, I know this is going to change my life, but it wasn't going to change me. So a week before the final, I left. I was at the airport. I rang my mum. I said, "Mum, I've got to get out of the country." She goes, "What's wrong with Shaun?" I said, "I'll tell you in a week's time." Put the phone down. And she was just worried. Yeah. But because I knew what was happening next, because that whole week they ran that whole coverage in relation to, is this a black man going to make history? And I didn't want that. I just didn't want the pressure of people knocking my door. So I left my back door open because I knew what was going to happen next. So when I came back, I brought the trophy with me to Jamaica. So I'm coming back through customs now. I said, right, I'm going to have some fun with customs now. So I put a hat on. I looked like I was a drug dealer. So I'm walking through now. So I knew I was going to get approached by customs. Just had a feeling. So he goes to me, where are you coming from, sir? I said, I'm coming from Jamaica. So he goes to me, have you got anything you shouldn't have? I said, I'm not sure, you know. He goes, you better come with us then. Right. So we go into this room, there's loads of people getting their stuff turned over. So he goes, what are you not sure about? I said, it's in that box. Now, the night before, they'd shown the Mastermind Grand Final. I knew they had.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that they were going to show it the same night. And it's the only time they've ever shown it on successive nights. So he goes, where is it, sir? So I pulled it out. He goes, you the bloke who won Mastermind last night? I said, yeah. He wanted to pack my suitcase. I said, no, it's all right. It's all right, I'll keep myself. And everybody stopped what they were doing. So I walked into W.H. Smith's. I'm in every single newspaper. And the best one was in the Daily Star, because I knew the world and his wife were looking for me. And it was we are trying to find or locate Shaun Wallace. Do you know where he is? If you do, can you ring this number and we'll call you back? So anyway, so because it was the December, I was coming back, and obviously it was really dark at about 4 o'clock. I left my car at the bottom of the road, put on a big hoodie, walked past the press packer outside my house, walked past them again, walked down the alleyway. I left my back door open for a week. Right, walked into my house, and they did not leave my house until 11 o'clock. My phone rang 100 times. I had to pull the plug out. I thought to myself, I just can't deal with this.
Jeez.
So anyway, I was really, really hungry. So went out and got something to eat, came back about 1 o'clock, and the following morning, picked up the trophy, went to my mum's house, opened the front door. I said, hello, love. Put the trophy down, right, and she was happy. And then she gave me an ear bashing while I made her worry. It was just wonderful. It was just really, really good. I would have loved to, because my dad was at a club called the Leary Constantine Club in Dolly's Hill, and he got a standing ovation. And it would have been nice to have been a fly on the wall to see that, you know, my dad getting that accolade, because, you know, if it wasn't for the love and support of my parents, I wouldn't have done it. No way.
Yeah. Yeah, you say in your book a lot, actually, how family have been your backbone and of your childhood, your career,
especially my kid brother Stephen. I mean, he's my only brother, but we just love each other dearly. And the touching thing, which was really wonderful, when I first started out quizzing, especially in the 80s, I was the king of Trivial Pursuit. But the one person I could never beat was him, and I've never played it since. And the best thing he ever said to me, it was absolutely wonderful. You know, when I saw him and showed him the trophy, he goes, Shaun, you might be the champion of the UK, but you know what? You're not the champion of the Wallace household. And you know what? He's right. He wasn't. It was just, and it's things like that keep you grounded.
They keep you on the ground, definitely.
Not that I needed it, but it was just a wonderful remark.
Right, let's go to your number 8 track. Is that right?
Number 8. It's 2 successive tracks by this artist, because when I was a kid growing up, he was the man, actually. Although he became a reverend, he has this wonderful, wonderful soul voice, and it's the Reverend Al Green. So it's going to be 2 successive tracks from him. My first favourite track is the one which everybody knows, Let's Stay Together.
Yeah, Let's Stay Together it is.
You got that plugged in and ready,
I got it in the
You ought to be with me.
Serving the community. This is South Birmingham Radio.
I'm so in love with you. Whatever you want to do is all right with me. 'Cause you make me feel so brand new. And I want to spend my life with you. Me say, sing, baby, since we've been together. Ooh, loving you forever is what I need. Let me be the one you come running to. I'll never be untrue. Oh, baby, let's stay together. Loving you weather, times are good and bad, happy or sad. Ooh, yeah. Well, the times are good and bad, happy or sad. Why people break up? Oh, and turn around and make up. I just came to see you'd never do that to me, would you, baby? Staying around you is all I see. Is what I want to do. We ought to stay together. Loving you weather. Times are good and bad, happy or sad. Come on, let's stay together. Loving you weather.
Waking up at 12 in my clothes again. It's broadcasting online 24 hours a day. This is South Birmingham Radio.
Here's the latest news. South Birmingham with me, Tristan Harris. Today marks 100 years since Armistice Day, when the guns fell silent and the fighting stopped to bring an end to the First World War. There'll be services and parades taking place across Birmingham, the rest of the country and other parts of the world. An appeal has been launched to find a suspect after a man was stabbed 3 times on a bus in Edgbaston. Police want to speak to Gerard Dugan following the incident, which happened at 4 p.m. on Thursday. The victim, who was 34, was on his way home from work on the X8 bus on the Hagley Road when the attack happened outside Morrison's. The victim was stabbed 3 times in the arm with a small unknown weapon. Fortunately, he was not seriously injured. Dugan, who is 38, has links to Birmingham, Sutton Coldfield and Walsall. Anyone who sees him should not approach him but should call 999 straight away. To see a picture of Dugan, visit the news section of our South Birmingham Radio website. And around 50 people turned out in Rubery yesterday to protest against proposals which could see the closure of the village's library. Worcestershire County Council has launched a 90-day consultation on the future of its library service, and it's believed that Rubery and Cats Hill libraries are among those which could face the chop. A petition launched by the area's county councillor Peter MacDonald is available at several places in the village, including the Co-op, Rubery Social Club, Polly Put the Kettle On and Robinson's Opticians. Councillor MacDonald said in in a speech that Ruby Library was a cornerstone for the community and a focal point for the village. That was your news for South Birmingham.
South Birmingham Radio weather.
Poor Tristan keeps getting cut off at the end. That was your news for South Birmingham. This is the weather. It's 12. Highs of 12. Light rain showers and a moderate breeze. Lows of 6 today. It's looking quite sunny outside. Some glorious sunshine. We've just had some photos on the roof terrace with Shaun Wallace. Later today, it's going to be mostly cloudy. A few spells of sunshine and a few showers as well. So typical British weather today. Take an umbrella out. It'll be nice and sunny. Leave it at home. It'll pee down. Tomorrow on the way to work, it'll be fairly breezy with long spells of sunshine. We'll also chance a few showers moving through at the time. These are most likely through the afternoon. There we go. They changed the description on me halfway through that. Okay, Shaun, how are you today? You
I'm good, actually. It's a shame we got the order. Actually, the order was quite right with Al Green. Doesn't make a difference, actually, because they're both fantastic.
Yeah, they're both brilliant songs.
Yeah.
They're both brilliant songs.
Yeah.
Right, so more on your TV now. We spoke about Mastermind and how that kind of pulled you out of the dredges, really, didn't it?
It did. It completely changed my life. It certainly did. It opened up a whole new host of opportunities for me. I was working on Radio 5 Live as a guest panellist for the best part of 4 years. You know, I was invited to this programme, that programme, speak at these events, that events, and you know, it completely shifted my focus in relation to the way in which people perceive me and the way in which I saw my life taking a different direction. But even though, you know, it opened up a lot of doors in terms of giving me the sort of public profile and persona, I was still a barrister first and foremost. And, you know, I reconnected with law, if I'll put it that way. And I'm sure that the confidence of, you know, winning on game shows, reinvigorated my love for law. And, you know, I eventually rejoined a set of chambers. And it's been going on well since then.
Yeah, brilliant. And actually, it's one of the texts as well, so I'll go into that. Now you're obviously a famous professional chaser. And someone texted in, I can't remember who it was, I'll find out for you in a second. But they said, is Bradley Walsh as fun off air as he
Absolutely.
is on air?
Bradley is one of, I call him the heir apparent to Bruce Forsyth, and rightly so. People don't realise that, you know, Bradley used to be a professional footballer in the sort of early 80s, and he gave that all up because of his love and passion to become an entertainer. And, you know, to make that gamble and make that sacrifice took a lot of courage on his part. He decided to actually do that. Then, you know, he had to go through the sort of the tough way, working in working men's clubs, being a red coat with Butlins, and, you know, being the entertainer, trying to be funny, trying to be that all-rounder. And he's gone up the hard way.
Yeah.
And he got his breakthrough sometime in, I think, in the early 90s, when obviously somebody recognised how talented this guy was, and they said, you know what, we want to see how good you are. We're going to give you a gig on the London Palladium, and he, you know, hosted it, and he's not looked back since. And he's shown his versatility in terms of he can act, he can sing, although he takes the mickey out of me, and I take the mickey out of him, especially in relation to his album. And I was castigating him because his album was called Chasing Dreams. So I turned around and I said, look, Bradley, you've nicked
the title.
You've nicked my title. And you know, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. And I think one of the reasons we get on, apart from the fact that I'm 2 days older than him, is that I think we share the same experiences in terms of, you know, making that sacrifice in order to actually... sometimes you've got to take 2 steps back in order to actually make that giant leap forward. And so far as Bradley's concerned, everything which he has in his life, he's totally
worked
deserves.
for. Yeah, definitely. That was Daniel Carlos Hadley that sent that text in. He presents everyone Live Lounge on a Tuesday evening. To catch up on the text now, someone said that they haven't left the name. I love Shaun's music taste is excellent, although still would have preferred Tina Turner.
No.
Yeah, I know.
It's got to be Al Green.
Yeah. Uncle Bob, who presents our breakfast show, says he's enjoying listening to you. You sign do that after.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's quite a few texts coming in. Oh, this one was good. This is one I was going to mention earlier when we were talking about law, but we got a bit sidetracked because our in-house photographer came in and everything else. Has Shaun ever worked professionally with Judge Rinder?
No, he was in a chambers called Hare Court Chambers, somewhere in the Temple. I never knew who he was until obviously he became, famous in his own right. I've met Rob, a nice guy. He's actually been on the chase. He took on Mark. He gave Mark a run for his money, but the beast was far too good at it.
Yeah. And then out of the chasers, who do you get on with the most?
We all get on. I was, everybody doesn't realise that, but I was the world's first chaser. Now, as I say, every cloud does have a silver lining. Now, although, when I'm sitting in my car, I didn't envisage, after having been beaten in the Eggheads Grand Final, that was the end of my, I thought it was the end of my TV career because I'd come out of retirement and I thought, well, I'm back in retirement. But when they broadcast it in 2008, ITV at the same time called me and they said, look, we'd like you to audition for potentially new exciting quiz shows. So I said, went along. They asked me 30 questions. I got 28 out of 30. So they said to me, how well, they said, what are you doing? So I said, well, I'm on Eggheads at the moment. So they said, well, how did you get on? So I said, look, I'm not going to tell you. That's going to be my audition. You watch me on Eggheads and you'll see how good I am. So I think they must have contacted BBC to discover the fact that I'd got to the grand final. Yeah. Because on December the 2nd, when they broadcast the Eggheads grand final in 2008, the following day, I was in front of an ITV commissioning panel.
Oh, wow.
We were trying to sell them the chase. So I was working on the show for about 4 months. Then they brought in Mark. That's the first time I'd actually met Mark a bit. I knew who he was because obviously I'd seen him in game shows before. Yeah. And we got on quite well. And one of the first things, both Mark and myself, I said to Mark, I said, listen, if this show takes off, in order for it to be a success, we as chasers have got to respect each other in terms of our abilities. If there's going to be egos, it's not going to work. You might be better than me, I might be better than you. You know, who knows, who cares? The most important thing is the success of the show. So me and Mark have been very, very close from the outset. June the 1st, 2009 was a seminal moment because that's when we went up to Manchester to do a pilot. Now, at that time, I was instructed as a junior in a murder case. So the week beforehand, I said to my leader, I said, look, I need to do this show. And he was doing another murder case and another murder trial in the same building. He said, look, Shaun, I'll let you go, but you got to get cover. So I said, all right. So I got cover. I had to pay the junior £4,000 for that week. Right, I was getting paid £100 per episode for the pilot. And you know what? It was money well spent because I knew that was going to be a good show. So we did a 10 pilot show. Then we were up against a show called The Fuse, which was hosted by Austin Healey, to determine who was going to get the commission. And with all due respect, that Fuse, fizzled out. And once we had done the show, because we only had a limited budget, and after show 4, the people who put the money up left. So they said to him, why are you not going? They said, these two guys, they're too good. They said, they're too clever, too good. And we were. Then they, series 2, they brought in Anne. And Frosty Nichols is fantastic. She is one of the best female quizzers on the planet. When Singh says that, Bradley says that, he's not joking. She is that good. Yeah. Then they brought in Paul, who for me is the cleverest chaser. Paul's the 11th best player in the world. Wow. His quizzing has just gone stratospheric. And then they brought in Jenny, who's been a welcome addition. She's very, very good. And people are beginning to warm to her now.
I've not seen any of Jenny yet.
Yeah, she's very, very good. The reason why is because we're all on once a week now. We used to be on twice a week, especially when there was 3 of us, sometimes 3 times a week. So, the more chasers there are, then the less we're going to be seen. And we all get on well. We all respect each other. And the reason why the show is such a success is because from the runners right up to Bradley, we treat each other as one big happy family, and it just shows.
You can see the connection.
Yeah, it just shows. It just shows.
Like the way Bradley just laughs at some of the answers.
Yeah. I mean, I to be honest, when you see me not trying to laugh, it's not me not trying to laugh. I don't want to laugh.
Yeah.
I find him funny, but listen, Brad, look, I'm not interested in your jokes. I'm here to win. You know what I mean? But out of all of us, I think people realise that. But both myself and Bradley, we have the best relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think when you and Bradley are on, it's a completely different show.
Yeah.
Because
the banter between
and you can see it in your face. You're looking at him going, "Get on with it."
Get on with it. I'm not interested.
And
he's trying to break
he knows that. And he'll carry on joking
and he'll take the mickey out of me, and he's just fantastic. And sometimes when I sing, and I know I can't sing, and that grates him, or I try to crack a bad joke, and I'll take the mickey out of his album and things like that, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. How do you balance? I mean, a professional career like a barrister is very time involved. Building a case, researching a case, all this stuff. You've not only got that, and some people think TV appearances, you turn up, you record, you go on, that's it. But it's not. You've got to raise your profile with charity galas and network and do things like this. Like yesterday, you were filming in the studio until about 5:30, and then on a train to Birmingham, and in the studio this morning.
Yeah.
How do you
strike that balance?
I can't even.
You know what? People might think it's tiring. It's not, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because I'm doing two things which I totally love. Yeah. If you're doing something which you love, I'm not working down the mines. I'm not doing backbreaking work. I am so fortunate to do the work I do now. Yes, working as a barrister is demanding, but remember, I'm a barrister for the last 34 years now, so I do have the experience in terms of preparing cases. I take my preparation for a case very, very seriously. No matter how serious, no matter how trivial, the client always comes first in terms of the attention which I give the case. When it comes to training for the quizzing, again, I spend about 2-3 hours. I've got a catalogue of all these quiz shows which I tape. I just sit home. Just answer the questions. That's how I do it.
Oh, wow.
See how good I am.
Yeah.
I'm only interested in the questions I get wrong, not the questions I get right. Buy the newspapers, buy Time Out magazine, because I don't have time to go to the cinema. I don't watch soaps. So if I'm asked a question on the soap, I'll just guess. Because even Achilles has a heel.
Yeah.
Right? So I can't know everything. I wouldn't want to know everything. Who'd want to know? If we knew everything, the show would be boring, because we'd never lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's always good to see a chaser stumble.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially towards the end.
I remember I lost £50,000. I was explaining that on Piers Morgan's show. I was one question away from winning. They asked me, what colour is Marge Simpson's hair? Now, if you've never watched The Simpsons, you're not going to know. I'm sitting there thinking, orange, blue, orange, blue, orange. 6 seconds I'm wasting. Blue. No, I said orange, and it was blue. They then asked me a question. Again, I was one question away from winning. Who is the eldest Simpsons child? Bart Lisa. Lisa. And the Twitter backlash I got, because people, I thought, I threw it. Now, why would I want to throw a game? I wouldn't even let my mum win.
I tell you.
I'm telling you, I would not let any. Why would I want you to win? I don't want you to win. If I could answer every single question correct, that's what I want to do. I don't want you to win.
Well, when I was researching the chase, actually, and I'm going to go back to Piers Morgan after, but when I was researching the chase, quite a scary thing came up. It was the top of Google. It's not like it's very hidden down, but some of the tweets you get are abusive tweets when you get things wrong. I mean, people really
tweets,
take
trolls.
it
I get the whole
seriously.
lot. Not interested. I get a newspaper article saying that I should be sacked. Guess what? The only people I have to justify my appearance to on the chase is my bosses. Once they say you got to go, that's when I'm going to get worried. Anybody else? Not interested.
It's honestly like, if you have a proper look, it's like a football world. Jose Mourinho loses a match, they're calling him for his head, and then Jose Mourinho wins 5-0. They're praising him.
Yeah,
and it's exactly like that with the
all
Chase.
the time.
The
Not
Chase
interested.
fans.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe.
Can't be asked. I look at the Twitters. Yeah, you're useless, Shaun. You should be sacked. Okay, you're right. Sometimes I will reply. I say, guess what? You're right. Send them a little smiley. Well, I'll give them the thumbs up. You're probably right.
I really, really honestly, some people have got more time on their hands than
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so just to run up of the remainder of the show, really, we've got 2 minutes silence at 11 o'clock.
Absolutely.
For our fallen heroes. That's very important. We've also got the £500 quiz. That's going to be important to somebody. It's 16 minutes past 10 now. We've got quite a few tracks of Shaun's to go through. Now, I will say this now. Get your texts in now, because as we get through the show, we'll probably be more rushing to get the quiz in and stuff. So get your texts in now. 077.
Yeah, please get your texts in.
Yeah, 07722 036597. We want to hear from you. Obviously, I can't think of every question that everybody wants to ask Shaun, so just get in touch. Help us run the show. We enjoy it. We enjoy the interaction. Shaun's enjoying the questions. Don't be scared to ask anything. We're a nice bunch. Okay, so number 7, isn't it?
Number 7,
6.
yeah.
No, number 6.
Number 6. Okay, your counting's getting better, Alex.
Yes.
just like it's bowling yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah, number 6. What's
Right, my number 6. Now, it's a wonderful group called the Brothers Johnson. Do you remember Stomp? I wanna stomp all night. But they brought out an album called Light Up the Night in 1980, and there's a little known track on there which is one of my favourites. And me and my brother, sometimes we used to pretend that we was in the studio with our microphones on, with our respective microphones, singing to this song.
You can if you want.
Yeah, listen, you probably have no viewers afterwards anyway. So. But this song's called Closer to the One That You Love, and it's one of the people who's actually guest vocals on here. Is I want you to see if you can identify him. Okay. Very, very famous singer. See if you can identify him. But this is a fantastic, fantastic song for me. Closer to the One That You Love.
By the Brothers Johnson. Here we go. Okay, that was Brothers Johnson.
Now, did you identify the very famous singer who was the uncredited backing vocals on there?
Yeah, I found out because Shaun told me.
Yeah, we couldn't get it.
You couldn't get it at first. Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Michael
Yeah,
Jackson.
absolutely. Yeah, fantastic.
We've got to text him. And I know we spoke about this, and I know you spoke about it on Good Morning Britain as well. What's the method for learning so much and retaining that information?
You've got to have an interest in what you're learning. You've got to be passionate and want to actually feed your mind with information. And people ask me, how can you retrieve that information so quickly? Remember, I'm a trained barrister. And people like myself, Mark and Paul and Jenny, we've been quizzing for years on the quizzing circuit, quiz competitions. I play in a quiz team every single week. So we're professional quizzers who can access information quickly. And I say to a lot of people, you'll be surprised what you've forgotten. The only difference between you and I say I can access information quickly and under pressure. But, if I was to give you time to, try and retrieve an answer, it might not take you the same time which I would get it, but you get it eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to your TV career now, and it's a question we asked about law, you want to achieve QC. Is there anything in TV that you are striving for, anything that you want to be doing?
I'd like to present a documentary. At my in my house, I've got murals everywhere of my black heroes. In my attic, I've got black heroes ranging from Pelé, when he scored the goal in the 1970 World Cup final, the meeting between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali, Bob Marley, because obviously as a young black boy growing up, when you look at black heroes who have achieved something in society, it makes you proud to be black. I was proud to be black. So when people used to see, and when I, alongside the one in the attic, I drew a picture I had a picture drawn of me when I got called to the bar. So I always used to show it to people, and they said to me, why do you put yourself alongside these people? And I say to them, well, if you can't be a hero in your own house, where can you be a hero? And alongside that drawing now is a picture of me winning Mastermind. Guess what? People may say in years to come that, maybe I could be considered a black icon. I don't see myself that way, to be honest. People talk to me about role models and things like that. It's nice, but you know what? Sometimes if you're in the public eye, as you said in relation to text, people, you're an Aunt Sally. They'll be waiting for you to slip, waiting for you to fall. And you know what? Guess what? Everybody's human. So I see myself as a goal model as opposed to a role model.
I like that goal model. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, in terms of role models, anyway, it's probably rather unprofessional. You certainly one of mine, especially with the law interests and being on the TV and in the public eye. Me and my nan used to sit down and watch the Chase every single night. So it's. I think you're a lot of people's role model.
It's nice, but as I say to a lot of people, okay. Yesterday when we went bowling, it was fantastic the way how people come up to me. But I want people to realise, listen, I bleed just like you.
Yes,
I cry like you. I'm a human being just like you. And I'm no different to anybody else. Okay, I'm in the public eye. And, the one thing I don't get caught up is in the hype.
Yeah.
I always say this, and it's true, you put a monkey in a suit on a public show, he's going to look like God's gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
So guess what? Sorry. I'm no different. 14 years ago, I could walk down the road, nobody knew who I was.
Yeah.
So you know what? Guess what? That's what keeps me grounded.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I will always be grateful to the public for putting me in the position where I am now.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you honestly, if you want to find out more about Shaun's life, I'm not just saying this. Chasing the Dream is an absolutely fantastic book. It's produced by Cranthorpe Miller.
Oh, it's getting there.
It's on Amazon.co.uk right now. It's out now. It's there. It came out on what day did it come out on?
Halloween.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's on there. It's a fantastic book. A real page turner. It's not just an autobiography. It's definitely a story. It's a story of a boy who
is still chasing the dream.
Yeah, still chasing the dream. And when he was younger, living in the rougher part of town, he's black in a society that didn't appreciate the black people at the time, that aspired to be at top of their game in law, and both career wise and personally, and family orientated, and like we were said about earlier about the Padre, the community coming together. Honestly, it's a really, really, really good story. It's not just about the history of the person; it's the history about the country as well. That 60-year gap. I'm going to speak to you about that now. That 60-year gap, and especially in terms of, they didn't see it as racism then, but racism, it would be termed racism.
Absolutely, yeah.
That gap. I mean, we've come so far in some respects, but in some respects we haven't. I mean,
you know what? Guess what? It's completely different than what it was 60 years ago. Because 60 years ago it was overt. Listen, everybody has their own inherent prejudices, and anybody who says otherwise is lying.
Yeah.
There are sort of subtle changes and subtle shifts in relation to preventing people from progressing because of the colour of their skin, because of the fact that of their disability, because of their race or whatever. But it has changed. Whether or not we'll get to the nirvana or the sort of utopian ideal of it completely being eradicating, guess what? We're living in a fantasy because it won't happen.
No. That's the problem. Everyone has their stereotypes, don't they? That's
exactly.
That's not going to go
That's
away.
not going to change because it's part of human nature. It's part of one psyche. So
you can't have a world without prejudice.
No,
exactly. Yeah. And I bet that's hard. I bet that's hard in the law career as well.
It is, but guess what? Anybody going into any profession has got to realise that the establishment determine who gets to the top and who doesn't. Whether it be based on your colour, sex, class, race, disability, it's going to happen. I always am a firm believer that talent will always eventually rise to the top.
Yeah. I go to your personal life now. You've lived in Wembley.
Lived on the same road for the last 54 years.
Yeah, 54. I thought
Not
it was
changed.
44. Yeah.
No.
And what do you like about the area that you live in? Because obviously you're...
Right, you know what? I can go anywhere in the world. I remember I was up in the Amazon one time with my mates having a great time. I think you've seen the pictures in the book in relation to me sort of, partying down on Ipanema Beach. I can go anywhere in the world and people can ask me in any different language, where do you come from? And if I say Wembley, they know exactly where I'm coming from.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone knows where Wembley is.
Everybody knows Wembley, yeah.
Now, going to your family life, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I've got one brother and three sisters. I've got a sister from my mum's side, a sister from my dad's side, and a sister from the product of my mum and dad. So Debbie is 11 months younger than me. Sandra is 61 now, and my other sister Rose is about 63.
Oh, wow.
64.
And what do they all think about what you're doing with your life?
Oh, they're very, very proud. Of course they're proud. But, they don't treat me any different, which is fantastic. That's what I want.
That's what you want,
Don't treat me any different because I'm on telly, because they wouldn't anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just reading the book, you see how much of a family man you are. It's like, I read just a short snippet of one paragraph, and it was your aunt coming over...
Oh, yeah, my Aunt Dolores. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, that's my mum's only sister. So when she came over in 83, it was fantastic, actually. Took her around. But one embarrassing thing, I had a Golf, and I was taking it to Brent Cross, and I ran out of petrol. And we had to be retrieved by the sort of breakdown truck. So we took her to the petrol station. So, I took her around, and I remember it was I just got my law degree. So she said to me, in a year's time, hopefully you'll be Shaun the lawyer. And when I went to the States in 84, I went to go and see her, and it was fantastic. She was so proud. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so number 5. We're getting there now.
Yeah, we're getting closer. This man is one of the great singer-songwriters of all time, James Taylor. Just love him. Now, people are going to sort of argue as to whether or not this next track, whether or not you should have gone with the Marvin Gaye original, just like Tina Turner, they were saying, so let's stay together. But for me, this is the best version of this particular song, How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You.
Oh,
Absolutely wonderful.
Enjoy this, and we're just going to swat up ready for the quiz. The quiz is coming soon. Your chance to win £500. Now, if you want to enter, this is your last chance. We are closing the entries at 10:45. What you need to do is you need to share the website article about Shaun Wallace coming on the show. You then need to like the Rock and Roll Breakfast Show Facebook page, which is facebook.com/RNR Breakfast. Message the page and tell us you've done that. That is it. That is everything. There's 3 steps. You are there. You are entered. And then we'll pick at random who gets to come live on air and try and beat the
the chaser.
Very careful.
Beat the chaser.
Beat Shaun Wallace. You're allowed to say it. I'm not. Okay, this is James Taylor. How sweet it is.
How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I needed the shelter of someone's arms. There you were. I needed someone to understand my ups and downs. There you were, with sweet love and devotion, deeply touching my emotion. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I want to stop and thank you, baby. Yes, I do. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Feel so fine. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I close my eyes at night, wondering where would I be without you in my life. Everything I did was just a bore. Everywhere I went, it seems I've been there before. But you're bright enough for me all of my days. With a love so sweet in so many ways. I wanna stop. Thank you, baby. I just wanna stop. Thank you, baby. Oh, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you. It's just like sugar sometimes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Whoa, yeah. You were better to me than I was to myself. For me, there's you, and there ain't nobody else. I wanna stop. Thank you, baby. I just wanna stop. Thank you, baby. Oh, yes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Oh, now, how sweet it is to be loved by you. It's like jelly, baby. Oh, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Just like honey to the bee, baby. Yeah, now, how sweet it is to be loved by you.
A brighter mix of music, 24 hours a day. South Birmingham Radio.
Hello, and we are back with Shaun Wallace here. Yes, so we've got the quiz coming up in a bit as well.
Good. I'm ready.
You're ready?
Absolutely.
You're ready. You need your glasses. That's all you need.
No, don't need the glasses. All I need is my mind. That's all I need.
We had a few people come up to Shaun Wallace at bowling last night. I think it took him a while to get the confidence to come.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's strange that people. I say to people, listen, don't be frightened to ask. I'm not going to bite you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not from another planet. Of course, you can come up and ask me. You know.
One of the things you mentioned, Paul, was Piersma.
Paul.
Piers
Morgan. Yeah.
Piers Morgan
Yeah.
earlier.
The story.
Alex told me a story that you told him when he picked you up of you, Piers, and Stephen Fry.
The quiz.
And there was a couple of other people.
Right, yeah, that was fantastic. Because what happened, because after I'd won Mastermind, I'd retired, because obviously you'd won the best quiz show possibly on the planet, so, you know, what else was there to achieve? They weren't going to let me on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, so, you know what, guess what? Gone. So I'm sitting at home, and I get a phone call. So, is that Shaun Wallace? Yeah. This is Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan used to work for the Daily Mirror? Yeah. So how did you get my number? So he explained to me, because I was a bit indignant at the fact that, you know, somebody in the press has got my number. So he explained to me how he got my number. So I said, anyway, what do you want? That's exactly what I said to him. And I'm glad Piers told you how it really was, because that's exactly how it really was. So he basically explained to me that, you know, he wanted me to take part in his quiz. And I said, look, Piers, I've retired. I'm not really interested. He then spent the next 40 seconds persuading me. And I kept saying, no. Then he mentioned Jeremy Paxman, because I always wanted to meet Paxman, because obviously he's the quiz master on the University Challenge, and I knew who's going to be the quiz master as opposed to being a team. So I said, you know what? Send a car. So they sent a car. I was at the Riverside Cafe in Hammersmith. So the car, you know, the taxi driver didn't even know where he was going. So he was driving around. I was getting more and more annoyed because I had to be there at 7 o'clock. Anyway, got it at 5 to 7. I could see Piers Morgan walking up outside the venue like he was having kittens. So I went up to him and I said, all right, Piers, gave him a little fist bump, but he was so relieved that, you know. So he introduced me to his member of his team. He had Roger Alton, they had a guy called Connor, Larry, and Steve Kellner, Simon Kellner of The Independent, and Roger Altman of The Observer. So, you know, gave him high fives and things like that. So I was the only black person in there, and they didn't know who I was. I was the reigning Mastermind champion at the time. Like, the London Glitterati were there, from Sebastian Folkes to Stephen Fry. And Piers' main rival was the then Guardian editor Alan Ruthbridger, because he had his own Guardian team. And I think they didn't want Piers to win, because Piers was always trying to win this trophy. But they didn't know who I was. So anyway, first round came out was general knowledge, and, you know, I sat back and, you know, they were just astonished in relation to the fact that I was, you know, answers just coming like that.
Yeah.
Right. But let me make it clear, it was not a one-man team, because we all contributed. I'll tell you, it really was. Even though, you know, there were times where I knew the answer, and, you know, but we all contributed. It was a team effort. Anyway, so it was half-time now, and my hero was there, John Mortimer, and he knew who I was because he'd written a book written by this solicitor about legal personalities in London life, and I was in there called the Junior Defence Barrister. When he wrote something about me, I just could not believe my legal hero knew who I was. So I went up to him and told him how much he meant to me, and he was so touched by it. So anyway, so I'm standing around now by myself, because obviously Piers and that lot just gone off, so I just wanted to be by myself. So Stephen Fry came up to me with Sebastian Folkes. So he goes to me, because they were just intrigued who I was.
Yeah.
So I just said, you know, would I know Piers from? I said, Piers is just a guy I know. You know, he's asked me to take part in his team. Penny didn't drop.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we was always in second place, and you had to play your joker. But I said to those guys, don't play your joker until the end of the general knowledge round, you know, because, So anyway, got to the Sudoku round now, and I've never played Sudoku, not really my thing. So we were all stumped. So Simon Kellner did. So, and he was fantastic. So he answered all the questions on Sudoku. So we were now 1 point away in second place behind the Guardian team.
Yeah.
I said, all right, lads, let's play the joker now. General knowledge, bang, 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 bang. We won by about 20 clear points. By that time now, I think the word got round. I know who that black guy is. He's the Mastermind champion. All right. By that time, Piers had already gone up, done his sort of speech, and moves, and he was chorus of boos. Me and the rest of the team go, yeah, great Piers, great. Love it. And he'd written his own autobiography that year, you know, highlighting his life for that, written a diary, and he wrote about me. And it was fantastic. And, you know, when I saw him years later, I saw him at the NTA Awards, and I said, Piers, you remember me? So he did remember me. So I said, listen, mate, I've written my book. You're in it. When it's published, I'm coming on your show to talk about it. So when I published it, I sent him a copy, and he just loved it. You know. So that's the story.
You seemed like when I watched Good Morning Britain, he seemed like you really
it was because you know it was a great win for him, and I was really pleased for him because you know he sort of thumbed up to the sort of establishment. Good on Piers.
So with the celebrity lifestyle, do you go back to that? Is it any point where it gets tiring?
No.
Boring.
I don't live the celebrity lifestyle. You won't see me at nightclubs. You won't see me sort of, falling out at nightclubs because A, I don't drink, and B, I don't smoke, and you won't see me doing things like that. People do see me. If they see me, I'm going to stop and talk to them. Simple as that. Yeah. I'll always do that because I'm no different to any member of the public. Just because I'm on television doesn't make me any better than anybody else.
This is what I was going to go on to. Last night you were just chatting to people.
We're human beings all together. Exactly. No different than anybody else.
Fantastic. And another massive thank you to Hollywood Bowl. Great part last night.
Yeah, superb.
Absolutely fantastic hospitality. And of course, Beach Signs in Northfield, as well as Rubery Fish Bar for sponsoring the upcoming £500 prize.
Oh, wonderful.
Very generous of them.
Good.
Okay, so number 4.
Number 4, we're still on James Taylor. Now, James Taylor has had some fantastic songs. Mexico. I could go on, but my favourite Carolina. But my favourite James Taylor song of all time is "Walking Man." That is got to be the best James Taylor song he has ever thought of. I've never actually seen him live. It's one of my ambitions to see him live because I still think that man is just absolutely. He's got a fantastic country stroke soul singing voice. He just crosses over superbly, and he's one of my all-time heroes.
Hey, what a great show that would be, having James Taylor playing live and Shaun Wallace in the studio too.
Oh, listen,
we'll have to try and
arrange it.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so this is James Taylor with Walking Man. We are back shortly, and don't forget, if you tuned in at 11, we will fall silent for 2 minutes, and you should know why that is.
Yeah,
and it's to remember our fallen heroes. So we will be doing that at 11 o'clock. Automatically, the system's going to do it. We have no choice, and we will be observing it in the studio. I'm going to follow it up with a song called "The Sound of Silence," which I'll talk about later. But at the moment, this is James Taylor, Walking Man. Don't forget to get your questions into 077 22 036 597.
Moving in silent desperation, keeping an eye on the Holy Land, a hypothetical destination. Say, who is this walking man? Well, the leaves have come to turn in, and the goose has gone to fly, and bridges are for burning, so don't you let that yearning pass you by. Walking man, the walking man walks, well, any other man stops and talks, but the walking man walks. Is on the pumpkin, and the hay is in the barn, yeah. And Pappy's come to rambling on, stumbling around, drunk down on the farm. And the walking man walks, he doesn't know nothing at all. Any other man stops and talks, but the walking man walks on by, walk on by. Most everybody got seed to sow. It ain't always easy for a weed to grow. No, so he don't hold the rope for no one. The sure one's always missing, and something is never quite right. Ah, but who would want to listen to you kissing his existence goodnight? Walking man, walk on by my door. Well, any other man stops and talks, but not the walking man.
Broadcasting online 24 hours a day. This is South Birmingham Radio.
I like the way your sparkling earrings lay against your skin so brown. I wanna sleep with you in the desert tonight, with a billion stars all around. 'Cause I got a peaceful, easy feeling, and I know you won't let me down. 'Cause I'm already standing on the ground. And I found out a long time ago what a woman can do to your soul. Oh, but she can't take you anyway. You don't already know how to go. And I got a peaceful, easy feeling. I know you won't let me down. 'Cause I'm already standing on the ground. I get this feeling I may know you as a lover and a friend. This voice keeps whispering in my other ear, tells me I may never see you again. 'Cause I get a peaceful, easy feeling, and I know you won't let me down. 'Cause I'm already standing. I'm already standing. Yes, I'm already standing on the
Your music, your station. South Birmingham Radio.
You can't run away forever, but there's nothing wrong with getting a good head start. You wanna shut out the night, you wanna shut down the sun, you wanna shut away the pieces of a broken heart. Think of how we lay down together, we'd be listening to the Keep on believing, and you'll discover, baby. There's always something magic. There's always something. There's always something new. And when you really, really need it the most, that's when rock and roll dreams come true. The beat is yours forever. The beat is yours forever. The beat is always true. And when you really, really need it the most, that's when rock and roll dreams come true for you. Once upon a time was a backbeat. Once upon a time all the poets came to life, and the angels had guitars even before they had wings. If you hold on to a chorus, you can get through the night. Get you through the night. I'll treasure your love. I never wanna lose it. You've been through the fires of hell, and I know you got the ashes to prove it. I'll treasure your love. I wanna show you how to use it. You've been through a lot of pain in the dirt, and I know you got the scars to prove it. Remember everything that I told you. I'm telling you again that it's true. You're never alone, 'cause you can put on the bones and let the drama tell your heart what to do. Keep on believing, and you'll discover, baby. There's always something magic. There's always something. There's always something new. And when you really, really need it the most, that's when rock and roll dreams come true. The beat is yours forever. The beat is yours forever. The beat is always true. And when you really, really need it the most, that's when rock and roll dreams come true. That's when rock and roll dreams come That's when rock and roll dreams
Yeah, we haven't played yet. Hello, we're back in the studio with Shaun Wallace. This is the Rock and Roll Breakfast Show. It is 4 minutes to 11. 4 minutes till we do a 2 minute silence for our fallen heroes.
For me, it's very, very important,
I was gonna
actually.
ask,
No matter where I am in the world, I always take time to sort of sit and reflect the sacrifice that people made so that people like me could be free, people like ourselves could be free. And no matter where I am, as you can see, I'm wearing my poppy, although it's a bit battered.
Yeah.
And today is very, very poignant because obviously it's the 100th anniversary since the armistice, and we should never ever forget the term "the ultimate sacrifice" that people were prepared to lay down their lives. Millions of people were prepared to lay down their lives in order for us to live free, not only in the First World War but also in the Second World War. You know, I just shudder to think if the Nazis had ever won, probably I'd be sort of, walking around in chains. So I am totally grateful to the ultimate sacrifice people have made to make this country free, to make the world free, and a better place to live.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you know about armistice? I mean,
I'm a big student of history. So the armistice actually was, although it officially ended the war, it didn't mean the war had. Obviously Germans had collapsed, and it was in Compania Forest, where in the carriage where they actually signed the armistice. And unfortunately, when France capitulated to the French in 1940, what Hitler had done, he signed the French surrender in the very same forest. Then what he did, he had the carriage blown up. And obviously he thought that that was the high point of the Nazi success rolling across Europe, and he thought he was going to beat the British, but we never surrendered. We stood alone and we defeated the Nazis, and that's why, so far as I'm concerned, we had the right leader at the right time, because who knows if Churchill hadn't taken the reins in May 1940, God knows what the world would be looking like now.
No, I know. And yes, definitely grateful for everything Churchill did and his back cabinet. Because I think a member of his back cabinet we're trying to back channel a deal with Hitler.
No, not him. Well, you had the appeasers who basically, people can, obviously people like Chamberlain, who actually was from Birmingham. Chamberlain was a Birmingham person, and obviously he was vilified eventually because he remembered the horrors of the First World War, and he didn't want to bring war to Europe again. But when Hitler renounced the Munich Agreement and marched into Czechoslovakia in March 1939. And then, so far as even Chamberlain was concerned, the red line was that if you invaded Poland, that was it. And when he invaded Poland, he had no choice but to declare war.
All right, please join us in observing silence.
You're listening
Broadcasting
to South
online,
Birmingham Radio.
24
We now
hours.
join the rest of the UK in observing 2 minutes silence for Remembrance Day.
Here is the latest news from South Birmingham with me, Tristan Harris. Today marks 100 years since Armistice Day, when the guns fell silent and the fighting stopped to bring an end to the First World War. There'll be services and parades taking place across Birmingham, the rest of the country and other parts of the world. An appeal has been launched to find a suspect after a man was stabbed 3 times on a bus in Edgbaston. Police want to speak to Gerard Dugan following the incident, which happened at 4 p.m. on Thursday. The victim, who was 34, was on his way home from work on the X8 bus on the Hagley Road when the attack happened outside Morrison's. The victim was stabbed 3 times in the arm with a small unknown weapon. Fortunately, he was not seriously injured. Dugan, who is 38, has links to Birmingham, Sutton Coldfield and Walsall. Anyone who sees him should not approach him, but should call 999 straight away. To see a picture of Dugan, visit the news section of our South Birmingham Radio website. And around 50 people turned out in Rubery yesterday to protest against proposals which could see the closure of the village's library. Worcestershire County Council has launched a 90-day consultation on the future of its library service, and it's believed that Rubery and Cats Hill libraries are among those which could face the chop. A petition launched by the area's county councillor Peter MacDonald is available at several places in the village, including the Co-op, Rubery Social Club, Polly Put the Kettle On and Robinson's Opticians. Councillor MacDonald said in a speech that Rubery Library was a cornerstone for the community and a focal point for the village. That was your news for South Birmingham.
South Birmingham Radio weather.
Yes, that was 2 minutes silence to celebrate the 100-year armistice. We're in the Rock and Roll Breakfast show studio here, and just about to do the weather. It's highs of 11, lows of 6. I think the silence has thrown me off a little bit. Today's outlook is mostly cloudy for a time this morning, with showers or longer spells of rain. Later this morning and into the afternoon, it will brighten up with spells of sunshine, but also a few showers around. Now, I've chosen the next track, The Sound of Silence by Disturbed, because I think it just shows how powerful the sound of silence really is. The whole country, well, the majority of the country today, fell silent for 2 whole minutes for that 100-year armistice. So this is Disturbed with The Sound of Silence.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the
Disturbed with Sound of Silence. We're back with Shaun Wallace, who's just raised a great point.
Yeah, that was a fantastic and a poignant track, I think, to mention the silence. And the silence I'm talking about is the fact that throughout the war, the First World War, people forget the contribution made by black and Asian people in contributing to the victory. And what is forgotten and what is propagated, I think, is the fact that during the war, especially the German propaganda, was that the British were using the British and the French were using their colonists to actually fight the wars, to actually sort of put guns in the hand of the black man and basically giving them ideas above their station. And what was also wrong is that the victors and the vanquished came together to actually try and dehumanize and to try and sort of minimize the contribution made by black people and Asian people to the war effort. Moreover, when the Americans went back to the United States, the black soldiers went back to the United States, when they wore their uniforms with pride, they were lynched by their own people because of the fact that they were black people in uniforms who were getting ideas above their station, ideas of freedom and independence. So what is silent is the fact that black people made a significant contribution, Asian people made a significant contribution to the war, and they should never ever be forgotten.
No,
no, very, very, very well said. I think nowadays it's a lot more, especially with recent news. With May was, or the government was deporting people that had served.
Just goes, in the year we've made a significant contribution in terms of us coming to the country. It was highlighted the fact that the British policy of forcing people to come back by virtue of the fact that they appeared to fall foul of the change of the law, even though they were working here, contributing here for the past 50 or 60 years. It was lamentable, and people like David Lammy should be commended to actually highlighting and exposing the government's shame in relation to that policy. And as I say, I'm not going to basically point the finger because the Labour government were just as guilty as the Conservative government in relation to not ensuring that black people, Asian people who came here, who made a significant contribution, were somehow treated as though they weren't a citizen of this country who they helped to create and build.
Yeah, definitely. And on the point that we were just making, the breaking news has just come in that 10,000 people attended the procession today. 10,000 people. And Prince of Wales laid a wreath on behalf of the Queen, who couldn't make it. So 10,000 people in
good.
one area.
You know,
really good.
Because we should never ever forget the contribution made to the people who made that ultimate sacrifice.
Yes, definitely. And moving on, but not forgetting, obviously. Moving on now, we are at number 3, aren't we?
Oh, I think we're at the 4th track away from the fabled number 1. I'm sure people.
Oh, it was all going so well. The character was going so well.
Exactly. I think Jordan is still stuck in that bowling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He thought he got a strike when he really didn't only got 9 pins. You know what I mean? So I still think he's still stuck in that. And Sam, you beat your husband. Don't forget that, love.
Do you remember that? Do you remember?
Just reset your go.
Just reset my go.
Do you know why she was so good out of all of us? Because what I noticed about her bowling, not only was she bowling left-handed, which is a natural hand, she was also bowling right-handed. So when I tried it, my bowls went down the alleyway, hers were just basically on point, and she was just fantastic. Well done, Sam.
I don't know how she gets them to turn.
Yeah, she got them to. You were doing it as well.
Was I?
Although I did get 1 strike.
Yes, you did.
I did. So make sure that's on the website.
This is the worst part, right? We're all playing rubbish, and I
was rubbish. Okay.
and I said to Sam, right, let's have a round where we don't have the cameras on. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
I got a strike, but it was defaulted. Shaun Wallace got a strike, but it wasn't recorded. We did manage to get a photo celebration, thankfully. Yeah. So our best round was when no one was recording. Jordan got a strike. But yeah, no, it was really good fun.
Great fun. Had a superb time.
Yes. So yeah, sorry. Back to introduce your track.
Right now, as I say, this band here, I've seen them twice. They are, without doubt, on par, so far as I'm concerned, with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. The Eagles are good, but Steely Dan are just a cut above the rest. And I was really, really sad when Walter Becker died last year, because Walter Becker and Donald Fagen have got to be the, apart from Lennon and McCartney, and apart from Richardson, Jagger, they've got to be the best writing combination in terms of music. And as a kid growing up, I just loved Steely Dan. Haitian Divorce is fantastic. The Fairs is fantastic. But I've got to pick two favourite Steely Dan tracks. And the first one has got to be the one which they used to play all the time. Why this never got to number one in the UK charts, I'll never know.
Did it get to
PEG has got to be the best. Even De La Soul sampled their song. That's how good it is.
Yeah.
Okay, Steely Dan with Peg. Do you know if they got number one in any other country?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but there will always be number one so far as I'm concerned.
That's a good answer. This is it. It's Steely Dan with Peg.
You're listening to the Rock and Roll Breakfast Show with Alex and Jordan. Only on South Birmingham Radio. Better than the Rock from Blackpool.
PEG by Steely Dan there, and Shaun has got a fantastic story attached.
Yeah,
to this.
as I say, Steely Dan's always played a wonderful aspect to my life. The day I won the Mastermind Grand Final, I remember when I was coming home from the studio, I sort of backed off the roof and I was playing Steely Dan and I was playing James Taylor. And the night before the Grand Final, I had what I describe as my Rocky moment. So I went to my local church and I stood on the steps and I thought to myself, Lord, I just hope I can just do myself justice. And I remember that day because it was a day that England had just lost to France in Euro 2004. I didn't want to stay too late just in case, neighbours were looking out and they thought, is this a burglar? So after I'd won, I had the trophy and I went home and I sort of filled my bath up with strawberry syrup and sort of ginger beer, which was my drink at the time. And I sort of celebrating, playing rap music. I was just going nuts for about I didn't come out of the bar for about 4 hours anyway. So it was about 11 o'clock at night. So I took the trophy, drove around the whole of London with the trophy sat next to me. And I got back to the same step outside St. Michael's Church. And I sort of lifted the trophy up to the Lord and I said, thank you. Thank you so much. And I slept with the trophy that night.
That wasn't what I was expecting to hear.
Yeah, well, I did. And when I woke up the following morning, it was still there. I realised this really did happen.
Yeah,
it really did happen. So I've got a friend called Nipper who I talk about in the book because he was instrumental with me sort of getting in to quitting because I had to go around to his house when I had nowhere to go and I'd play him in 15-1 and I'd always beat him and he was quite good at countdown, so he'd get his own back. So when I first told him, he was one of the reasons why I didn't tell anybody about my performance as a mastermind, because when I won the first heat and I got 17 out of 17, he asked me how I did. He said, Shaun, he used to call me Ledge, which is short for legend. Oh, right. Ledge, how'd you get on? So I said, look, you sure you ain't going to tell anybody? He said, no, I won't. So when I told him, but by the time I left him, to the time I got home, I got 10 phone calls. Well done, Shaun, we heard you done fantastic. So anyway, the following morning after the Mastermind Grand Final, it was Ascot, because we always used to go Ascot for Ladies' Day. Yeah. So, he went along, because he used to wear his trademark white suit. He's had that white suit for about 1 million years, actually. We used to call him the Martin Bell of Monk's Park. So, he said to me, how did you get on? So I said to him, it was a bridge too far. He said, oh, was it? But I said to him, yeah, a bridge too far for the others. So I didn't want to tell him. Because if I'd have told him that I won Mastermind,
everybody would know.
Everybody would know. So anyway, as I say, the months leading after winning Mastermind was fantastic. Once people realised my life changed irrevocably because I was on, public eye, doing everybody else to speak at events, all of a sudden my word was law, and it was fantastic. It was really, really good to be recognised, for something which I'd achieved. One of the greatest achievements was my old school.
Right.
Now I talk about my old school, who basically had written me off as being a total failure, and I said I'd never go back into that school unless they invited me. Well, anyway, 20 years afterwards, there was an article about me in The Guardian. And my old teachers read it, and they wrote to me, and they said to me, "Are you the same Shaun Wallace who used to go to Copenhagen High School?" So I remember, yeah. We'd love you to come into school. Well, that's an invite to me. Walked into school. I remember I had the most expensive shoe, crocodile skin shoes, gold bracelet. Walked in looking like $1 million. And when you go back to your old school, you feel like Gulliver going back to Lilliput, because schools look smaller, but it was a wonderful nostalgic time, and half of the teachers who basically were at the school at the time I'd left were still there. Half of them were so slack-jawed they couldn't believe this was the same Shaun Wallace who they thought would amount to nothing. And you know what, so far as I was concerned, there wasn't a hint of bitterness, there wasn't a hint of animosity, because you know what? You weren't telling me how I was going to live my life. I knew what I wanted to achieve, so no problem. So when I won Mastermind now, it so happened to coincide with the school's 50th anniversary in 2005.
Nice.
So all of a sudden now, I'm the school's most famous son. They were having a party at the House of Lords. Would I come to their party? Of course I would. Hugo Boss tie, Hugo Boss suit. I looked $1 million. The game walked in, and I remember, sitting there. I was the only student they invited, and I remember sitting there thinking, because the great Sir Henry Cooper was there, Lord Ali was the guest speaker, and I remember sitting there thinking, it just goes to show, eh?
Yeah.
So, after that, then I'd retired from quizzing, did all the events, one with peers. They asked me to give back the Mastermind trophy after a year. I was the only Mastermind winner who's ever done that, really.
Yeah.
And I just retired from quizzing. I wanted to go back to law. Law was more interesting. I wasn't really interested. I had loads of agents wanting to pursue me to represent them, but I didn't really think that's what I wanted to do. I was a lawyer first and foremost. So I was in the public eye. But I had itchy feet after about 2 years, like an unbeaten fighter. Sometimes, you want that adulation. You want to go back into the ring. So Eggheads at the time was the prime quiz show. So I put a team together, and the pot was at a record £65,000. So I put a team together, went to the audition, told them I was. We passed the audition. 2 days before the recording, they said, no, we don't want that team. I thought, really annoyed.
Yeah.
Anyway, that paled into significance, that disappointment, because in the November early January 2008, my dad almost passed away. He was seriously ill. And that was the most frightening moment of my life. And I remember there was 2 occasions where I got phone calls in the morning, early hours of the morning. Look, Shaun, you better come in because we don't think your father's going to make it throughout the night. God. And myself and my brother rushed to the hospital, and thankfully he survived. And I remember I took his chain off. He had a St. Christopher's chain, silver chain. And although my dad was in a coma, I said to look, Dad, I'm going to put this back on your neck one day. Because St. Christopher's a patron saint of travelling, and I'm going to say, we're going to make this journey together. And when he recovered in the December of 2007, I remember me and my brother went there Christmas Day, and it was just, and the rest of the family. It was really, really pleasing. And although my dad lived by himself, he was a proud, independent man, and he realised that even he needed some help in terms of the social care to provide, make sure he could have a railing in his bathroom and on the stairs. And one of the first things we did when he recovered, we took him to his church to sort of have a celebration of prayers. And, it was just fantastic. And in that year, it was his 80th birthday, 24th of May, 2008. And it was a very, very proud moment because my sister came over, her grandchildren, so that would be my dad's great-great-grandchildren. And we had a great party at my dad's house. And it was just wonderful to know that my dad had survived that harrowing problem and seen his 80th birthday. And every day he lived until he passed away in March of 2014, I was grateful for. So, a couple of days after that, I then get a phone call from... I was in the middle of a major trial. I get a phone call from BBC production officers. Is this Shaun Wallace? Yeah. Is it blah, blah, blah from the Eggheads? Well, what do you lot want? We want you to take part in an exciting new show to try and find a new Egghead. Not interested. They rang me 3 times. And the third time they got an executive producer of the show to ring to persuade me. And I basically told them, well, I'm throwing my toys out the pram, but, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm in the middle of cases. I'll see what I'll at least turn up to the audition. Turn up to the audition, play the game. Won on the last question. I thought, this is exciting. They said, look, we really want you to take part. I said, look, I'm in the middle of trials. I can't do this. They even accommodated me to take part in the trial on the Saturday. So the first game, I played this guy called Rob Swarbrick, who was brilliant. He won £500,000 on a show called Duel. I beat him on the last question. Nice. I then played the then world reigning world quiz champion and European champion who sets the question on the Times. His name's Olaf Bjorntoft. I managed to beat him on the last question, and there was only one recording day left. And I was in the middle of a trial, and I could hardly say to a judge, oh, by the way, Your Honour, can I take time off to record a quiz show? He told me where to go off. So luckily, that case was postponed. So there's only one recording day, but I was the only contestant who hadn't played the rest of his round. So they said, look, Shaun, if you want to win this competition, you've got to play the quarterfinals, semi-final, final, all in one day. And I did.
Nice.
Oh, I certainly did.
We are down to your top three.
My
tracks.
top three, yeah. Now, this artist here, I'm going to play 2 successive songs in a row. He, without that, you've got your Luther Vandrosses, you've got your Marvin Gaye's, you've got you name it, you've got it. But for me, this man is the best soul, R&B, hip hop singer of all time. His name is D'Angelo. You may or may not have heard of him. And his Voodoo album of 2000, for me personally, is the best album ever created. And the first track I'm going to play of his, now this is another cover version. People might think I would like Roberta Flack's version of this, but for me, this is the best version of this particular song ever sung. It's called Feels Like Making Love, and it's by D'Angelo.
There we go, that's coming up. Also, just a quick one to one of the listeners. A lady called Tessa was unsure how to enter the competition. We haven't got time to email you back because they're typing on the phone and stuff and you're vibrating in the studio, but I just wanted to let you know you are entered, and I've seen the updated phone number, so we've got you.
You're in, Tess. Don't worry about it, lads. You're in.
No more panicking. No more panicking. So that's coming up soon anyway. These are 2 successive tracks by D'Angelo. Feels Like Making Love.
And we'll save the other one.
Oh, okay.
Don't mention the other one yet. Not yet. I'll mention
I'm not going to tell you the one. I'm not going to tell you.
No.
I've been told by the Dark Destroyer.
Yeah, you can't. Go back. That for me, his other one is the best, my favourite song of all time.
Yeah. Really? Wow.
Favourite soul song of all time.
There we go. I'll leave that to Shaun to introduce then.
Okay.
Feels Like Making Love by D'Angelo. Here we go.
Watching winter turn to spring.
No, as I say, a lot of people might like Roberta Flack's, but Roberta Flack's version is good, but that has got to be the standout version of that song. Sorry.
Yeah, everyone was enjoying that in the studio, especially Shaun.
Absolutely.
Head bopping.
Exactly. Fist pumping. Yeah.
Got a hand wave going on at the end.
Exactly.
Wish we'd recorded it.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, you want to come to my favourite song of all time, my favourite R&B hip-hop song of all time. It's got to be this one. It's on the same album, actually. It's called One More Again. For me, the lyrics, the sort of composition, the way in which he sings it, the meaning is just, I don't know. Every time I hear this song, I just feel...
Yeah. Nice. Let's get right into it then.
Okay.
This is One Mojin with D'Angelo.
For the community, by the community. This is South Birmingham Radio.
Baby, know that you can call me girl, things change. Yeah, yeah. And if you wanna, we can catch up on some lost time. I'm wondering all the time how you been since I've been one. And I hope I chance to see you once again. And put your body fire. Get your baby, get your little baby once again. I love you, want you, take one more go.
Great
Wow.
track. Great track.
Superb track.
Yes. Is that something you just chill out to and unwind?
Yeah, yep.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice. Right. Now, let's jump to the quiz before your number one song.
Okay.
Okay, so we've narrowed it down to 4 because we can't scroll through all the responses at once. Okay, so you need to pick between 1 and 4, and now we're your contestant for today.
Okay, number 2.
Number 2. Okay. So that is Elliot Ryan. Elliot Ryan, be by your phone now. What we're going to do is we're going to jump to a song, give you a ring, give you a heads up of what we're doing, and then yeah, we'll see if you can take on the Dart Destroyer in a quiz. This is a short quiz, 5 questions each. You get to choose the question set. I've already written them out. Shaun Wallace hasn't seen them. It's all above board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of Foo Fighters on, give you a call, make sure you're there, and yeah, let's see if you can do it. And Bradley Walsh, I'm coming for you.
All my life I've been searching for something. Something never comes, never leads to nothing. Nothing satisfies, but I'm getting close. Closer to the prize at the end of the rope. All night long I dream of the day when it comes around and it's taken away. Leaves me with the feeling that I feel the most. Feel it come to life when I see your ghost. Twist. Nothing never comes, never leads to nothing. Nothing satisfies, but I'm getting close, closer to the prize at the end of the rope. All night long, I dream of the day when it comes around and it's taken away. Leaves me with the feeling that I feel the most. Feel it come to life when I see your ghost. Then I'm done, done, all of the next one done, done, and I'm on to the next one done, done, and I'm on to the next one done, done, and I'm on to the next one done, done, and I'm on to the next one done, done, and I'm on to the next one done, done, and I'm on to the next one done, I'm done, and I'm on to the next.
Right, okay. The benefits of being live sometimes, it's quite funny. You can you do a bit more than you can recorded. The downfalls, no one answers their phone. The Dark Destroyer chose 3 people, none of which answered. So
we've come up with a different plan. Well, we haven't.
So we're going to reformat this now because it is now 10 to 12 and we need to fit in the last song.
Yep.
No one answered the phone. So this is what we're going to do.
Well, I'm going to have to set a question then. Whoever comes in with the right answer will win the £500. And the question is, which notorious criminal was executed on this day in Melbourne jail in 1880?
There you go. Text in 077 22 036 597. The first one on my text screen wins the prize. Make sure you leave your name and your number so we can get back to you. Otherwise, we don't know where to send the check.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right, my final number 1 song.
It is.
It is. The book starts and finishes on one particular day. I told my life story within an hour, 29th of June 2008. And I remember it was a wonderful sunny day. I thought it was my date of destiny. I dropped some papers off at my chambers and was driving all the way in to the BBC car park. And on the journey, I was playing Steely Dan's Greatest Hits. And it was a fantastic day. I managed to actually park virtually in the same spot where 4 years later I was waiting to actually prepare for my Mastermind Grand Final. And I sat there in the car listening to this final track, getting all the inspiration I needed for that final push and that final victory. And again, it's Steely Dan. It's my favourite Steely Dan track of all time, and it's got to be Babylon Sisters.
I love this. I didn't know which song it was because it doesn't mention the song, it just mentions the artist in the book. I was reading this story about you sat with your head in your hands in. I just buy the book. Just buy the book. Go to Amazon, buy the book.
Buy the book, you'll enjoy it, honestly.
Really, really good. Completely unbiased. Fantastic autobiography. One of the best I've read. This is Babylon Sisters by Steely Dan.
distant lights from across the bay. Babylon sister, shake it. Babylon sister, shake it. So fine, so young. Tell me I'm the only one. Here come those Saturday winds again. They'll jog with the show folk on the set. Drink Kush Vasa from a shell. San Francisco show and tell. Well, I should know by now that it's just a spasm. Like a Sunday in TJ, that it's cheap but it's not free. That I'm not what I used to be, and that love's not a game for three. Babylon sister, shake it. Babylon sister, shake it. So fine, so young. Tell me I'm the only one. Here come those Saturday winds again. My friends say no, don't go for that cotton candy. Son, you're playing with fire. The kid will live and learn as he watches his bridges burn from the point of no return. Babylon sister, shake it. Babylon sister, shake it. So fine, so young. Tell me I'm the only one. You got to shake it, baby. You got to shake it, baby. You got to shake it. You got to shake it, baby. You got to shake it, baby. You got to shake it.
You gotta shake it, baby. You gotta shake it, baby. You gotta shake it.
Right, we have got less than 3 minutes to do this. Okay, now, I shall tell you, after I type this in, that... Okay. Multitasking is not my strong suit, guys.
You done well, son.
Thank you. Sorry, just getting the text. Okay, right, I've got 3 minutes left and I'm faffing. Okay, so, I can tell you, okay, I've got it. Right, I'm typing. See, I wouldn't have won this competition.
You would have done. Of course you would have.
Okay, I can tell you. Kim Clark, you got it right. Tessa, unfortunately, you got that wrong. Someone's texting without their name. Oh, that's Amy from an earlier text. Amy, you got it right. Lydia Stoneman, you got it right. Now, the winner, the one who got it first, was Kim Clark. Let's call her up. Okay, right.
Hello.
Hello, Kim. You're on air with Shaun Wallace on the Rock and Roll Breakfast Show.
Well done, Kim. Fantastic. You got the correct answer.
Oh, thank you.
And the correct answer is?
What's the correct
I
answer?
never won anything before.
Who's the correct answer?
Kim, what's the correct answer?
Ned Kelly.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
well
Ned Kelly died at the age of 25. Well done, Kim. Fantastic.
Stay on the line, Kim, and actually, no, I'll call you back after the show in 2 minutes, and we'll get your address for the check, okay?
Well done, Kim.
Well done,
Fantastic.
Kim. See you later.
Well done.
Enjoy the money. Bye. There we go.
There we go.
That's one happy customer. There we go.
That's brilliant. That
Good.
is.
Well, guys, listen. You paid me a great compliment to have me on your show, to actually, relive my life through my book and to actually play my greatest hits. And I don't know. Thank you so much, Jordan. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you, Sam, for being a great bowler yesterday. I hope everybody in Birmingham has loved the show, loved the music, and I hope you buy the book because it is a really good read. I'm not just saying it because it is because I wrote it, but it is. But thank you very much, the people of Birmingham. I love you all. Thank you once again.
Yes. It's been an honour to have you.
Really, really amazing. It's so surreal going bowling with you yesterday, and so how grounded you are. And I've really enjoyed listening to your life. Really enjoyed reading about your life. If you want to read about his life too, I've got to do this in 15 seconds. Go to amazon.co.uk, search Chasing the Dream. It'll be on there. A fantastic book, well worth a small expense. Have a look at the reviews. It is great. And we're going to put exclusive content up on the website later. This is the news. After me is Richard Lorna with
Here's
the
the
Sunday
latest
Lunch
news. South Birmingham with me, Tristan Harris. Today marks 100 years since Armistice Day, when the guns fell silent and the fighting stopped to bring an end to the First World War. There'll be services and parades taking place across Birmingham, the rest of the country and other parts of the world. An appeal has been launched to find a suspect after a man was stabbed 3 times on a bus in Edgbaston. Police want to speak to Gerard Dugan following the incident, which happened at 4 p.m. on Thursday. The victim, who was 34, was on his way home from work on the X8 bus